Right into it. Welcome, guys, for another episode of the Group Up Podcast. We're here for the great January debate. Happy New Year. It's the first podcast episode of the new year and my first time catching up with my homies. And we're going to see what we're going to talk about has been going on in Overwatch. Lots of nuggets from the developers. Even though we're in Season 8, a lot of talk about Season 9. So we're going to talk about all the things that they've mentioned could be coming, will be coming, or might not be coming. But first and foremost, let me introduce my guest. In the bottom right, unfortunately not live from Lijiang Tower, is Samito. Sam, what's up?
What's up, guys? So, you guys can just imagine this green screen is Lijiang Tower is what I'll say. That's just imagine. Or I could be anywhere of your heart's desire. You know, it's all a part of the imagination.
Could be Liverpool, could be in Kentucky, could be in a stadium, football stadium, eating pork, whatever it was.
Never Say Die was the horse's name. Never Say Die was the name.
There we go. Okay. In the top left, embodying that spirit, having survived the floods and whatnot with his apartments, Flats has made it here. Flats, what's up?
Hanging in there, you know.
Nice. How's the new place? You enjoying it?
It's good. There's some things I love about it, some things I don't. But they're still working on like the building because I'm still in the same complex because I had to move like right away. Because my old apartment got deemed unlivable. It was so bad with the flood. So I had like less than a day to figure it out. But yeah, it's not just my apartment. It was like a bunch of apartments that got flooded. So the one below me, they're currently working on. So if you hear drill noises, just let me know and I'll mute.
All right, gotcha. Don't worry. There's not like a slaughterhouse in Flats' there where someone's just like getting drilled into. It's just repair work. All right. And in the bottom left, rounding us off with a fantastic background as always, is Fareeha. Fareeha, what's up?
Hey everyone, how's it going?
It's going great. For those of you who don't know, Fareeha and I are actually cooking some other podcast stuff. Actually, we're both kind of working on an idea that we think will be very fun, completely unrelated to gaming in Overwatch. Well, not unrelated, but less related. But yeah, I'm excited to catch up with you again, Fareeha. Hope you've been keeping well.
Likewise, I'm excited to do this with y'all.
Okay, well, let's get right into it then, guys. We're here currently in Season 8, so I do want to talk a little bit about Season 8, because again, all our eyes and ears and attention is ahead right now, because we know that, I think we all know Season 9 is going to be like the real season, and we're just waiting. But until then, how do you feel about Season 8 as things stands? We've had these changes to Mauga now, so hopefully you guys aren't getting perma Mauga games, and it's a bit more diverse in that sense. But how are you feeling overall, big picture, Season 8? I'll go to Samito first. Sam, Season 8.
More of the same, I'd say. I think the Mauga nerfs helped. I think a lot of people were iffy on them as to whether or not they do anything. I thought that it would change a lot, and it's definitely more noticed. Like I've noticed the picks that should be good into him, and DPS at least, are better for sure. Like even in the previous patch, we did some gatekeeping of Mextro, and he had to dodge to go to EU. I want the record to stand. I made Mextro go to EU before to get top 10, so he couldn't do it on NA. But Sombra felt better into him. Echo felt better into him. I'm trying to think of other picks. I thought Mei would be good into him, and Mei actually just kind of wasn't, because Mei doesn't like, the key against Mauga is like you just had to play away from him, and it was cat and mouse, and you were the mouse, right? you weren't. It's Tom and Jerry, and you're Jerry. Except, well, Jerry actually wins. Well, like sometimes you win, I guess. But if you have not seen Tom and Jerry, must watch. American classic, must watch it. But it's more of the same, really. Nothing really changed for me too much.
That's fair. I've been thinking about getting a sponsor for the podcast, and now we've opened up Tom and Jerry. So, Cartoon Network, if you're listening, we're open to a Tom and Jerry collaboration come through.
Yeah.
Flats, how have you felt about Season 8? As from a tank perspective in particular, has things opened up since Mauga got changed?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you. There's literally no reason for me to play the game right now at all. There's just no incentive. I already got my top 100 for the season. I got my 50 wins. Mauga got obviously nerfed, and like on paper it looked like he was going to kill him, but I had this weird feeling when I first looked at it. I was like, I feel like he's still going to be like okay, and like I think in a lot of ways he still is okay, and still very playable, but it's really hard to be motivated to play the game when we know next season everything's getting reset anyways, and it's like a whole new system. It's like, what's the point, right? Like I already got my battle pass done. As a streamer, there's not really any drops at the moment, so there's no incentive over there. And in game, I've already done everything for the season. maybe there's like one or two more skins that I might want or something like that. The only thing I'm looking forward to is the prop hunt. A prop hunt when it returns with the, I think will be really fun for a couple days because the last one was really good. But like tank experience wise, I feel like I said this back in if you remember like season 3, season 4, where I felt like the days of tank being the dominant force of games is over. And a lot of people are like, no, like you're crazy. It's still tank diff for every game. And now everyone's kind of realized that like tank feels like the least impactful role as long as you're competent. Like if you're competent tank, you're not doing shit. And it's like it kind of feels really weird being that solo tank not having much impact in a lot of ways. And so I would say even though the balance has changed and like Ramatra is a lot better now. You can play some Winston on some maps, some Diva. If I'm quite honest, I'm bored. I'm very bored. And I think that hopefully, we're going to get into it way later, I'm sure. But like season 9 will have changes that mixes it up. But like even after that patch, like it kind of felt like a nothing burger to me.
Hello guys, SEB here, and the Group Up podcast is back, and I'd like to take just 30 seconds of your time to talk to you about 2 quick things. Firstly, Patreon. If you enjoy the content, then please do consider supporting directly, because Patreon takes only about 10% of the money you give, where YouTube and Twitch take 40 and 50% respectively. So if you'd like to support the podcast, then that is the best way to do so. Secondly, if you're someone who enjoys video essays or detailed analysis of movies, TV, or anime, then please do check out my second channel, The Soak, where I'll be making videos about those kind of topics much more frequently, and where a lot of my attention will go beyond just Overwatch. It would mean the absolute world to me if you guys would check it out, but that's it for now. Let's head back to the discussion. A nothing burger. Not encouraging to hear. Fareeha, how's it been for you? Is it similar where you feel like you haven't had a lot of reason to play and grind? I know the statement there as well of tank being really unfun and really unimpactful especially when I think it's when one tank isn't just hard countered. Then what Flash is getting at is that it's just you're just there. How do you feel about all of that?
Right now I play Overwatch to flirt with cute support players, to just have it on in the background as I have conversations about other things. It's really fallen into this kind of habitual thing where I'm not really playing to go for the highest rank and all this sort of stuff, because as Flat said, there's going to be a massive reset, so what's the point? And also, I don't know, I've just been having more fun engaging with the other sides of the game that are not so game balance, competitive integrity, and all this kind of stuff, because I've been really feeling the lack of drive to play ranked. Sometimes I get this overwhelming urge of I gotta prove something, I gotta get top 100 all roles. I sit around GM3 on all roles, but I don't play it a lot. And I'm I don't know, even if I was to grind, I don't know I would be happy even if I hit that goal. Because we know we have all these sorts of things coming, and I know that so many of my friends who are up there regularly are miserable. So I don't know, I try to have fun with friends, and that's how I see it. But yeah, it's just waiting on changes.
When you are grinding with your friends, has that at least been fun for you? Has the more casual gameplay been fun for you?
Quite fun. Yeah, quite fun.
And Flash, you've been doing a lot of that too. Has that been fine? Have you been enjoying that at least?
Yeah, I wanted to say actually one of my favorite pastimes is bumping into Fareeha in a random quick play game. I'm like, yes, I have someone to play with now.
Yes! That's one of my favorites.
All my friends are all the ranked grinders, you know what I mean? Like Emong, Jay. Emong I can get sometimes, and I'm like, come on, dude, you're on your 700th ranked game. We're in week 2 of the season. Get over here. But other than that, he typically does his own little thing. But Jay, you can't get him out of ranked, and there's a lot of them that that's what they do, and that's totally fine. Nothing's wrong with that. But when you get the 5 stack of people friends, we're just fucking around, and it's very weird. Okay, because 95% of the time we're just fucking around talking about dumb shit. And then you get the one game where it's those 5 people that are obviously stream sniping you, trying to try hard, and you're like, okay, let's try this game. And then it's a comp quick play game, and you still get that little competitive itch every once in a while, and it's a nice balance. I've enjoyed it. So
Me too.
I'd say honestly, been pretty good.
The silly goofy shit you could get of sleeping someone and then nanoing your widow as she hovers over them. So good.
I
Sam,
actually
you
bumped
wanted to
into
chime
both
in.
of you
Yeah, go
too.
ahead.
Yeah, I've actually bumped into both of them in quick play a couple times too. And I was gonna ask you guys like how you all felt about quick play because like it's felt different for me recently. Like I don't know why. And
Is it
maybe
better?
SVB, if you want to transition to quick play rank, I'm not sure what your agenda is looking like today, so I don't want to take you off of it. But I don't. I've been. It's been I want to say sweatier.
Oh yeah.
I can't Q tank on quick play at all. I don't know what I did. I must have gotten like listened to music and played Doomfist for like 3 hours one night because my tank queues are 20 minutes and it's out. I don't know what happened for me there. But at like the other roles like support and DPS have been pretty fun to play. I've been playing with some friends in quick play too, and I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I was just curious what they thought because Flats. I remember that one game when Wowga came out. I just spammed Kiri on what map was that? Was New Queen Street? I think it was. I don't know. I was just spamming Kiri in quick play, and
Yep.
it was fun. It was fun. Don't tell Metro that though.
It's actually a good point. Okay, now that you brought that up, let me say, when I play quick play, I don't Q tank. I Q DPS support. Like I never Q tank. I only have one rule. I only Q tank if I know Karku's hopping on, and we're gonna play ranked later. But I'm not playing ranked anymore because the season's. I got like fucking rank 60 or some shit, and I was like, that's good enough for me. Like for someone who barely fucking plays this game anymore, I can still park my ass at like top 100. Like that's good enough for me, dude.
Yeah, actually, Sam, you brought up quick play, and I was gonna take us anyways to quick play hacked. From my POV, just to fill in, I've been on a break basically, so I grinded Overwatch for a little bit at the end of like the start of the season, but then when Malga came out, I was grinding tank as well, and I got my 50 wins, and I was like in the top 100 ladder, and I was like, yeah, I'm actually having a good time. And then Malga came out, it became hard, Malga Mega. I got bored. I was already scheduled to go on a break, so I went on a break. I'm back at the moment. Now I'm like one-tricking Diva for a bit of fun. So I agree. I think as has been the case for a while, it's more fun when you don't take the game too seriously, when you're not grinding, when you're like, I think setting yourself like personal challenges and personal goals is like the way to go. And that's what I'm doing with like this Diva thing where I'm like, well, I never play Diva. What if I hard lock Diva? How would that go? And it's been fun in that way. But I missed completely the quick play hacked weekend, so I was not playing when that was a thing. So I'm very curious as to your guys' thoughts. I've seen a lot of mixed reception. Some people think it was good. Other people, the forums were losing their mind. They were like, this is the fucking worst thing ever. I've never seen a dumber decision. They're going to kill the game. So I'm going to go to Fareeha first. Fareeha, how was quick play hacked? Did you play a lot of it?
Oh man, it was a fever dream. So, okay. Like I said, I usually use Overwatch as a backdrop for like other conversations, and my muscle memory was so tested. Just like, fuck, man. Everything, even just like the tick of when the objective would like turn to overtime. Oh my god, lost on me. And Overwatch felt so weird going back to the normal speed. Do you ever, I'm sure you all edit videos at some point. Do you know that moment when you watch a video at like 3 times the speed or like 2 times the speed and you go back to the normal speed and it sounds like you're talking like this and everything feels super just slow-mo? That's what it felt like, but no, fever dream.
Fever dream. Yeah, it's like there's like a hyperbolic time chamber where you're just like intensely training and then you come out and you're like, what is this slowness? Flats, how was your quick play plus experience?
So I didn't get to play a ton because I was battling Poseidon this week. But I did luckily get to go to Emong's. He had me down to stream from his place, so shout out to Emong for that one. But I did get to play a little bit. My thoughts on it are the Overwatch community is legitimately like a bunch of old boomers. And they like to talk about like, oh my god, there's so many kids in this game. Shut up. This game is literally all the old people. Like, I bet if we took all the FPS games that are not named CSGO, and then, or CS2, sorry, my bad. And we put the age demographics together, we averaged it out, we'd probably be the highest. And I'm pretty confident in that. And we hate fucking change, no matter what. Now, let's pump the brakes. I'm not saying it was the greatest thing ever, but it was 100% overhated. I think the respawns were awesome. The respawns were quick, just felt like you were constantly playing the game, like dying. Like, I didn't even notice. I was like, oh shit, I'm alive again. Instantly. Like, I died on Genji a few times, and I didn't have my dash out of spawn. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And so I think that they could tune it and made it a lot better. So, like, For example, take the supercharger out of the cart from 60% maybe to 30%, give it a small tune, make it a little bit quicker. I think push was a lot better. It felt like, it was either you were getting stomped, the game was over instantly. It was like, well, okay. But like the way the push bot went and whatnot, like it felt really, really quick. Control was dog shit. It was way too fast. Like control like made no sense. I was like, you could go a whole game without getting an ultimate. I was like, all right, that makes no sense, So like they'd have to tune it for individual game modes a little bit better. But like overall, like the speed and the pace, like stay with me here before you're going. Ah! The sweatiness got tuned down quite a bit. I didn't see nearly as much quick counter swapping. I didn't see nearly as much counter swapping. Like, oh, they're out on Reinhardt. We're going Bastion. We're going Robotron. Like we're like within the whole team.
Right. There's just no time.
There was no time to, and like half the time, yeah, and like you're not sitting in spawn waiting 10 seconds. You're like, I died to that guy. Maybe I should swap. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to swap. Who do I swap to? And like, they just don't have enough time to think. They're already alive again. They're like, oh shit, I'm alive. And then they just like walk out of spawn. Like they just forget. And it's like, it's great. Like I noticed that even though the speed was too quick, I was having a lot of fun just playing, right? And I think that they could tune it a little bit back and make it a lot better to keep the essence of what is quick play. Because isn't that what quick play is supposed to be kind of is, right? Like I've always talked about in the past, or people always talking about in the past, like, oh, why isn't there an unranked game mode, right? Where it's like ranked, but like same rule set, but you know what I mean? Like kind of like back at the old betas, how quick play was ranked rule set. They're like, oh no, like it's not fast enough. People want to get in and out of games really quickly. If that's the point of quick play, like they're kind of onto something there, I'm open to it. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever, but I mean, if there's anything we've seen in the last 2 weeks with talking about major changes to Overwatch, which let's be honest with ourselves, is very fucking needed at the moment. And if you don't believe it, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're very much stuck in your ways. You're probably survivor from Overwatch 1 who still thinks like, oh, like if they did this and this, it would fix it. Like, dude, you've been here since like the shittiest point of the game. You're never fucking leaving. Like, stop talking. Like, what we need is like all people that actually leave and come back to actually play the game again. We need change, and Overwatch players don't like change, no matter what. So you know what? I'm giving them credit. I'm glad they did the weekend. Was it my favorite thing? No. Was there good parts of it? Yes. And I hope they do more of them.
Could I actually interject something onto that?
Sure.
He's cooking. Oh my god. So you put it perfectly. Like the worst parts and the worst phases of this game in its timeline have been moments of stagnation. And with how resistant we are to change, we forget that we hate this game most when it doesn't change. And so while I agree that like, yeah, it got a lot more hate than it deserved, I think if they used like an experimental card or maybe like an arcade mode, that could have been received much, much better. Because I think people perceived it as a loss to not be able to play quick play the way that they wanted to, the way that they were used to, and they took it as an affront. But yeah, it could be a really good arcade mode.
So obviously the devs, I think, said that the reason they didn't put it in like an experimental card was that they actually want everyone to test this, basically, right? They don't want it to be almost like a voluntary thing that you test, because if you click into experimental, you're like willing to test it out. They're kind of like, we want to see how everyone feels about this. And I actually agree with that sentiment. Again, maybe because I didn't play and didn't see how terrible it was, maybe I'm biased, but like from the outside looking in, I was like, this seems like, why not try it? Because I agree with Flats, like, and I tweeted about this, that like Overwatch needs big changes. It's not a game it's not it right now. Like, it's just not it. It's not the game that's gonna storm the market or make a bunch of people quit whatever other game they're playing and come play Overwatch. And it's interesting because the devs have said, and Jared said to me directly, like, oh, we're not really competing with any other game. Like, we don't see ourselves as competitors to Valorant or Apex or League of Legends or whatever. We're just our own thing. But it's pretty clear with this quick play hack what they are doing, which is they are trying to carve a niche out for themselves within the market. And I think what they've realized, like, I think what they've been doing a lot is paying attention to what they are hearing people like about Overwatch, and they're leaning into it. And I think what they've heard that people like about Overwatch is that it's quick. It's not a Valorant or a League of Legends where you get locked in for like 30, 40 minutes, and then if the game is miserable, the GG, good luck. You have to suffer through it or have to have a surrender. I think they're kind of realizing that, like, people like Overwatch is like this game you can hop in and out of. It's got teamwork. We'll get into the teamwork element in a moment. And like people like the teamwork, they like the swapping, they like playing a bunch of heroes, and they like that they can be done in 5 minutes. They like that you can just, I've got 10 minutes, let me play a quick game of Overwatch and come out. And I think that's where this quicker play was trying to attack at. It was probably a deliberately aggressive attack. Like they probably knew they were going a bit overboard with the numbers, but they were like, let's just see how much people feel when it's like super hard. It's like barely, you blink and you miss this game. Would that be fun for people? And so I'm open to this idea that like they should try and reinvent Overwatch a little bit and come up with something radically different. I think a lot of us have wanted that. And Sam, I think we've spoken about this on previous podcasts that like, hey, try things, try silly things. We want to see you guys. Yeah, we want to see you reinvent Overwatch. So how did you feel about quicker play?
A couple things. First off, a question. Did they start it Friday night and end it Sunday night? Was that what happened? Or like what was the time frame for when it was up? I'm trying to get a better idea.
Saturday, Sunday, just like the weekend.
I thought I did Friday too. Am I wrong? I think it was Friday because I didn't stream Saturday, Sunday.
I'm not positive either, but here's what I'll say. I think it went on a little too long. Come Sunday night, people were kind of fed up with it. So I think they could have probably ended it Saturday night or Sunday morning. I thought it was great. I think there was, and here's why I think it was great. I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of the changes, but we learned things that were very, very important. And I actually agree with them that it shouldn't have been on an experimental because you can't get the proper data from people. We learned that I think push would be better a bit faster. I do. I think push was the one game mode that benefited the most from this kind of change. The others weren't great. I didn't like the others, but it's important to learn from this, right? And I that's why I was more so okay with it. I know people were really irritated. So I think maybe you trim down the time, maybe Friday night, Saturday night, have it be gone by Sunday morning to get because by the time it was Sunday, like I was in like 6 or 7 minute queues, like queuing multiple roles. I was like, okay, people probably were sick of it, right? But push felt a lot better. I actually like kind of liked push quite a bit. In terms of the sweatiness, for me, games were like sweatier. I don't know why, but like they were over faster. So it didn't feel to me to be like that. It also could have depended on the map type. It was definitely aggressive. And I don't think people realize how aggressive of something like that is. And this is what I was trying to explain to them. They were like, people are so used to, and this is what frustrates me, SVB. And I talked to you about this when you made like the joke about like the 6v6 law or whatever it was, where people are just
Samito's law.
The game was better. And it's like a lot of those irritate me because people don't actually, they just mouthpiece it and they don't come to their own conclusion and cite the proper reasons. And that's what people need to understand. It's not about like the ideology you stand behind. It's about how you articulate and why you believe what it is that you believe. And if you're not actually accurately articulating that, then there's no point in the conversation because nobody's going to learn anything, right? Like I'm a big believer in ideas. My personality type is literally called the debater, right? I took ENT. Oh gosh, I took this last Myers-Briggs personality test. If you haven't taken it, you learn a lot about yourself. Super, super cool. But I did it again. It's
ENFP for me.
There we go. It's fun. It's cool. It's a really cool thing. So if you haven't taken it, definitely go take it. But I think that anybody saying this was a failure doesn't understand or is not willing to look at the big picture. I looked at Quick Play Hacked and I said that was a massive success. Because you don't have to agree with everything they do to recognize you learned something valuable from it. And a big quote that I love that I saw last year was from Giannis, you guys know Giannis, NBA star for the Bucks, Greek guy, right? They asked him when they lost. Know him. Yeah. They asked him when they lost in the playoffs last year if they viewed the season as a failure because they didn't win. And he said, it's never a failure. Like I always take something and learn. I always move forward. And that's why I was able to become a champion, was because I was able to sit there and I was able to learn from all this. And I think we learned more from that weekend of that event than any experimental in Overwatch 1. That was the first time where I really had to sit down and think about what was interesting, what was not. So if you're the developers, and listen, I give them grief all the time for things that I think they mess up. And I'm not afraid to say it. And I would encourage anybody who is up against them. I would encourage anybody who's trying to give them grief for this and say it was a bad idea. Really rethink that, right? Because it's the line of thinking that you want to look at, not the specifics. And we've never seen so many different variables in the game get changed and tested. Like I would say that was a bigger change than them testing out 6v6 to 5v5. or even open queue to roll queue, like respawns, like the actual objective times kept like capturing faster, that changes a lot of stuff. So it shows a willingness to be able to make that change. So you don't want to discourage that. You want to encourage it and give the proper feedback, which is why it was so frustrating for me to see people be like, this is bad, and then not say anything else. Okay, what didn't you like about it? Because a lot of the times when you get people to start explaining what they didn't like about it, they're wrong objectively about how the game flows,
They
right?
talk themselves out of it. And they're like, oh, actually,
Oh,
Yeah,
wait
and
a
it's like that, and that's why it's important to have the conversation, because there's been so many times where even on this show where like we've been talking about ideas, and I've sat there and I've been like, huh, like I wonder about that. Or, how many I give SVB a ton of epiphany clips of me making stupid faces, but everybody wins in that. You guys have got me a couple times with that. But I think it served its purpose. I think it did a great job on its purpose. I will say one thing you could learn: you could probably make that Friday and Saturday night. I think it went a little too long, especially when you're getting that aggressive with changes that could go either way. But I think that's all I have to say about Quick Play Hacked. I hope they do more. I hope they try more. And I hope people are more willing to accept ideas, because you can never grow if you don't. And make sure to actually articulate what it is you didn't like, or else you're not being productive, and it's a waste of your own time too. So
Yeah, that was very, very well spoken. I think that really hits the nail on the head of like how we should approach it. I think that is a relevant point to bring up as members of the community and to other members of the community, is that like we really just go really hard and whine at an unbelievable level the minute anything is changed or even announced to change, which we'll get to in a second about what changes that we are potentially getting. But I think it's this weird thing where on the one hand, everyone is like, yeah, Overwatch needs some changes. We need to freshen it up. And then devs are like, here's some fresh orange juice. And like, not like that. Fuck that shit. I don't like pulp. Get that shit out of here. I don't want it in my face.
that's controversial. Be careful about pulp. People take that very seriously.
I know that's real shit, but I do think we need to be more open. Like absolutely, as Sam said, if you're like I don't like it, express that and be like, I think I prefer Overwatch when it's slower. I prefer having more time to think about things and the tactical back and forth. I don't know what, again, I didn't play, so I can't say, but maybe like I actually prefer having more time to swing the game back or whatever it is. But again, as Sam's mentioned with the 6v6 thing, and this brings me a chance to bring up Samito's Law on the podcast for the first time, which is a term I've dubbed now, is that any discussion about Overwatch gone on long enough will result in a debate about 6v6, and that's Samito's Law. I think that's Samito's effect, is that every time now I see it so often, people are like, this wouldn't happen in 6v6, and I'm like, would it not? Would they not have maybe tried Quick Play Hacked in 6v6? I don't know. I think they might have done. So let's on that note, unless there's anything else you guys want to add on Quicker Play, Fareeha, Flats?
Ooh, I have something to add on.
Yeah, go for it.
Branching off of what Samito said, I'm curious as to what the devs are taking away from this, because I think there could be a lot of new variables that they hadn't considered. And, as you said, the devs are looking to make these massive sweeping changes throughout Overwatch. And I think that's really, really, really vital, because the game looks so different to what it looked like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And that is amazing, because I don't think that without these changes, we would no longer be playing it. And I think it's important for them to be constantly innovating and constantly, finding, hey, how do we fine tune this experience? How do we make it even more special? And maybe there's an element to it where it's like they have to take the gameplay loop that exists right now and speed it up more. Because you never want someone to just be sitting there. This is a big point of friction for me with like Rainbow Six Siege or like Valorant, is when you die, you're just sitting there for like 5-10 minutes, right? And you're just reflecting and stewing on like, what did I do wrong? Like, how can I improve? And you don't get that chance to iterate. But in Overwatch you do, and it's faster, and it's fastest in deathmatch. And that's why I always say, like, okay, if you're learning a new hero, like, Quick Play's great, but deathmatch is awesome too, because you die and you just go again, and go again and again and again, and it's just that constant feedback loop that is so fast and engaging. And it's why I felt so tired after like that entire Quick Play hacked weekend, is because it's just constant stimulation.
Just brought up so much trauma of getting spawn peaked on fucking Siege and then watching your team sit there and plant the bomb for 4.5 minutes and just fuck, dude.
And that's what to add on to that, I say this to my people all the time. And I say, they're always like, why don't you play Valorant? Why don't you do this? I have never been a fan of search and destroy modes personally in games. I am way too ADHD and hyperactive to like, do that. And that's not, and Overwatch, this is what I try to explain to people. Like, well, it did definitely, Valorant, a game like Valorant definitely took some of the esports scene away. Like, because a lot of those, without the Valorant League being around, like, Overwatch kind of was that game. So we had more of a volume for the esports side of things. But when people were like, this is going to destroy Overwatch as an identity, I was like, guys, I always push back on that, where I said, look, some people might play Valorant instead, but Overwatch's identity is so unique because of how the game flows in terms of just how the objective plays and your ability to respawn, and like the like there's so much more of an exchange in Overwatch than in all these other games, and that makes it unique in where like games like Valorant or even Rainbow Six, or really I don't think there's been another game like it to date. There's been more competition for sure, and that's one thing I will adamantly disagree with Jared on. I like the idea of focusing on yourself. You're completely right to do that. But everybody in this day and age in gaming, with how competitive everybody is your competition, right? And if you don't view it like that, and I'm not trying to lecture anybody here, but this is just a standard I set to myself. My biggest fear in life is becoming complacent. My biggest fear in life is becoming complacent. I do not ever want to become complacent. And a part of that, which has been a double-edged sword for me, to be honest with you, because it's not always sunshines and daisies, for me at least, is balancing that competitive nature with being able to push and pull, like a little bit of competitive, a little bit of quick play, right? So I'm very nervous about that mentality in an industry that's people are out to get you. You guys remember 2018? Those Apex patches when that game came out felt very targeted at Overwatch. Maybe I was wrong and I was the only one who thought that, but it's a ripe industry full of competition, and I'm really curious. I think this year, guys, and SVB, I'm gonna ask you to keep an eye on this because I think you have a very level head, which is why you're a great host. Keep an eye on Microsoft's philosophy. I'm really interested to see what they do, particularly with the shooters, because they claimed there were a lot of big claims, which is why it got passed in the UK, that they were keeping these shooters open. Like the multiplayer games are staying open. They'll probably take those like Fallout and Bethesda's Elder Scrolls. Where's Elder Scrolls 6, by the way, guys? Come on. I saw that trailer in 2018. 2018, I saw that trailer. You're trolling me, Todd Howard. But yeah, I keep a close eye on what I think this year we're gonna see what their big term vision is. So I'm going off topic again. Apologies.
No, it's absolutely relevant. I mean, it's funny because Bethesda might be the only game that can be memed on by Overwatch, where they can be like, since you released the trailer, Overwatch 2 came out. That's how long it's been. That's how long it's been since you dropped that shit.
Damn, that's bad.
I know.
Holy shit.
I think Cyberpunk scared everybody, but continue.
No, it's a good point to bring up, and you're right on the competitive front as well, because to know your point, I don't remember the Apex patch, but I remember that when Overwatch 2 launched in October, I think both Apex and Valorant like tactically had like they gave Overwatch 2 like 1 week, and then they both dropped like new seasons where they were like, we're not gonna clash it on the same period when we know everyone's gonna play Overwatch 2. Yeah. We're gonna try and steal everyone the minute they're bored. We're gonna be like, here's our new season. So it's like, again, it's probably a lot of dev talk. Like it's probably like a PR talk where Jared's like, oh, well, you don't care, and secretly he's got like a hotline into like, shit, Valorant new update out. We're gonna do something about that shit. All right, so. I agree, and I think that I also really like Fareeha's point about the sort of the fun of Overwatch being in that repetitive cycle and like the go again and the deathmatch. Reminds me a lot of like my current journey on Elden Ring, which I'll be playing after this call as well, where it's just like you just walk in, you get the shit beat out of you by some giant boss, and you're just like, fuck, you don't even say anything. Like half the time I don't even say anything. I'm just sitting there like molding to myself and like, go again.
Elden Ring's gameplay loops are insanely good. So
exactly, good. And it's so addictive. You just run right back. You're like, okay, this time I know that fucker. I know he's gonna do that little combo. I'm gonna dodge that one. So yeah, I think Overwatch channels that same element of it, where you just kind of you want to go again. You don't want to sit and wait the whole round, because that is the frustration of Valorant. You kind of like, oh, the bullshit. Like I got headshot, and then you try and take that into your next thing, and you're like, I'm gonna hold this angle, and then you die to the same exact thing. You're like, oh crap, I gotta wait another 2 minutes before I can even try and.
I wish we could be in the room for these discussions, because like Elden Ring's philosophy, it's so clear the moment you play it. It's like it's all about respecting the player's ability to learn, right? Or treating them with enough respect to hit them with a crazy challenge and let them decide like, okay, how am I going to approach this? How am I going to change? How am I going to adapt? I wonder what Overwatch's is.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't want to necessarily quiz any of the devs. I think Gavin was here saying that like he's just been on a call about Quick Play Hacked, and he tunes in, and we're talking about Quick Play Hacked. So I'm sure they're having very very discussions, and hopefully they'll share their insights when they can. But it would be fun to pick their brains about like, well, what are you guys thinking with this? So on that note, on another note of like, what are you guys thinking with this, is a thing that I think, again, the community, I personally think, has kind of overreacted to the news of it, but the self-healing passive that's coming for all roles potentially. Now, I was talking about this to my stream, and I laughed that this was like the first time I've seen a developer clickbait himself when Aaron Keller tweeted, and he's like, the self-healing passive for everyone? And I was like, oh, Aaron, no, honey, you don't want to do that. It's like, if they made a blog and they were like, here's the quick play, here's the self-healing passive amongst 5 other changes, some unscrupulous YouTuber like us might make a YouTube video that's like, self-healing passive for everyone, exclamation mark, question mark. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to yourself, man. So I feel like that might have been partly why there was such a gross reaction of like, oh, they're fucking ruining everything. Everyone's going to heal. Who needs supports anymore? But let's talk about the idea of it, because it is coming. It is going to be a thing. They are keen to emphasize that it's a diminished version of the current passive that supports have, and like it's going to be a lot worse basically. But Flats, you talk to me first about how do you feel about the self-healing passive idea?
Oh god, I have so many thoughts on this. Okay. So first off, you're right. Once again, guys, what the fuck are you doing when you announce shit? You can't only give a very small piece of the picture, especially when it's that major of a change, and not say anything else. Because, of course, people are going to react. Like there is legitimately no other reaction than the reaction that was given. You know what I mean? Like that should be a foregone conclusion. But again, though, I'm kind of with you. And then it's a bit of an overreaction because, again, we're all bored as shit. This is this, even in this call, okay, I don't want to say too much, but we've started talking about so much other shit other than Overwatch, and this is probably, I've done a lot of these podcasts with you. This is probably the most we've talked about other shit in it because, dude, I think we're even bored talking in some ways about what's going on in Overwatch, just because there's not a lot happening, and yeah, you're right. They kind of clickbaited themselves. But this is the shit. They're trying some crazy shit, and I'm totally in. I'm down. Why not? Let's see what happens. But let's see what the other changes are too, right? Because one of the biggest community sentiments, and I agree with what they're saying, is there already feels like there's too much healing in the game, and now everyone's getting healing, so there's more healing, and it's like, no, those people are 100% right. They're right from what you just said. But what if all healing is toned down with the passive, right? Okay, now is that better? Who knows? But there's also at least in my personal sentiment, I've said many times at this point, is I personally believe that there's too much damage and too much healing in the game. It feels like you can't kill things or you explode. There's no in between. And that's why I feel like fighting supports feels so bad, because they have an extra healing or an extra bailout ability, so you feel like you have to fight them twice or 3 times, while DPS are the easiest characters to kill in the game. If you're in a fight, statistically DPS die first, and then tanks, and then supports. And Sam, I think, was it you in in our thing that showed what was KDs per role?
Surprised me. It makes sense when you think about it. Yeah, it was very surprising to me to see that.
Yeah, it was DPS was the most deaths. It was 4.3 or something, and then tank was 4.1, and then support was 3.1. It was just a massive
KDA.
jump.
It was KDA,
yeah.
So DPS, and this was on Overbuff, which doesn't get all the data, but it gets enough. And my guess is the massive amount of data would add up to that based on our game experience. DPS had a 3 on average across all DPS here, is a 3 kill death assist ratio. Tank had a 4, and support had a 4.5.
I can actually I'll pull up the screenshot now. So it's damaged KDA is 3.07, support is 4.86, and tank is 4.5. So supports are significant amount, 50% higher KDA basically, if you want to think about it in those terms, than DPS.
And so yeah, currently it just feels wild, right? Because support players I think have finally come around and know, like, holy shit, like this role can kind of do a lot. Like I was just playing some quick play yesterday, the first time in like 10 days, and I was playing Ana, and I was just autopiloted talking to chat, and like I was just dominating the whole lobby. It's obviously it's quick play, but it's like I don't play Ana, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like you just sit there and you cycle your buttons, and everybody falls over and dies. So it's like, you know, support like has a lot of things both sides, but then you also have those games where you feel like you can't do a thing, and your tank's dying on cooldown, and your DPS can't get kills, and you're getting chased around the map. So like, all of those experiences are correct. Like none of those people's feelings are invalid. But like at the same time, though, we've gotten to the point where it almost in some ways feels like Overwatch 1, where instead of we're shooting shields, we're shooting people and getting hit markers, but they don't die, or you just explode, right? And it's like, I don't know, like it doesn't really feel like at the moment we're in a healthy state, even though balance wise, I don't even think it's that bad. Like I think balance wise, things are a lot better, and they've actually brought a lot of things out. Let's not talk about the Orisa thing, because Jesus fucking Christ, what in the world were you cooking with that? Like I know they wanted to talk about win rates and shit, but like this is why we don't balance on win rates. Like you can't just balance on win rates, because like Orisa's power is about being a fucking wall. And I remember. As you remember, like back in like season 5, season 6, I came on here and talked about how Orisa wasn't good, and I was like, ah. And then like a week later, it became Sigma meta, and I was like, you know, like Orisa's main strength was about survival. That's it. Like she didn't really have much stopping power. And so now she's still the fucking unkillable wall, but now she can poke you from range. So when you turn the corner, you're half HP because she just spams one corner the entire time, and it makes her a lot stronger. So now you feel like not only can you not kill her, but she also spams you out really well, and it feels shit to play against. So like you got to realize these things. But overall, balance wise, things feel pretty good, but the game still feels shit. So it's like, what's the problem? And I like that they're going to go out and do something crazy for season 9. Like, do some fucking crazy shit. And if it doesn't work, change it. If it doesn't work, change it. But, like, where we are right now, is anybody surprised that nobody really wants to play? And, like, if you want a good metric of when the Overwatch community is not doing too hot, is look at how much drama there is on Twitter. If there's a lot of drama, the game is in a bad spot. If the game's in a good spot, there's never anything.
Nobody's complaining, or at least they're not starting fights for no reason. They're talking about meaningful shit.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I just want to quickly point out, Gavin says to our point about KDA, he's like, well, you know, so basically what we call the limbs are basically like a tag, like an assist. So you really want to compare final blows to deaths, which, you know, I think that's a fair point. But also at the same time, there are supports that don't even fucking shoot Mercy, right? And it's like you're still like, and tagging them is still relevant and stuff. So it's like, I think it's not clear either way. I think it's a good indicator, though. What we've just discussed is an indicator of what we are talking about. So I think it is an informative stat. It's not the informative stat, but
and
Sam,
to add on,
yeah, go ahead.
That data set is not complete.
Yeah,
but I think it paints a good picture as well.
Right.
And again, another thing to back that up is you ask yourself, would these supports win a one-on-one against a DPS? Bat would beat most DPS in a one-on-one. Kiriko would beat most DPS in a one-on-one. Alari's a little bit in the middle, right? But moving on to the story. What was the first part of this conversation?
The self-healing role passive. Yeah. So how do you feel about that? And yeah, go ahead.
Reading all of it frustrated me. From the idea of doing it and the community's reaction to it, because so many people don't understand what they're articulating. So let me talk about why it frustrates me and scares me. I like them trying stuff. What scares me is their unwillingness historically to really take a step back and evaluate what changed and is it better. It seems like over the years, it's been like, hey, let's add this and it's done, right? Never any big changes. Like I hear like Brigitte and OpenQ, right? I had to go back to it, but you know, in GOATs, that was 26-7 nerfs instead of being like, okay, let's change Inspire, because Inspire still is I still think it's top 5 abilities in the game. Inspire is so good, right? Stuff like I could probably think
the old charge passive is a great relevant recent example of like they added it, everyone's like, no, I mean, this is my bingo card, you hit your bingo card, this is my bingo card, but they added it, they reduced it, they again reduced it, but they refused to actually take it out.
Yeah, it seems like in the analogy that I use, and I've been waiting for this one, is you know how when you're younger, or even sometimes now, where you have dirty laundry, you don't feel like doing your dirty laundry, you wore the clothes that day, it's a nice sick fit, right? I don't feel like doing my laundry, I'll put it in the closet. eventually that closet is going to get real dirty and you're going to have to clean it, right? And it seems like a lot of this stuff just gets punted by Overwatch and then avoided until eventually you get to a breaking point where I'll save my bingo card for later. I'm not going to go into the specifics. You guys know what I'm going to say, so I'm not going to bother, right? I'm trying to pull back on the law a little bit. But, it just, I really, the unwillingness to go back and just be like, okay, this didn't quite work, right? Let's take a step back. That's what upset me so much about this one, because right now I think maybe this podcast would agree with this take. I think the number one focus for them needs to be to make tank more enjoyable. I think tank was the biggest miss in Overwatch 2 in that it's just not fun. And I think the big reason, hang on, Flats, I promise I'll get you in here. I think the big reason why tank is so miserable is like what Flat said, when you're just chilling playing Ana, the support passive means that all of these abilities get easily dumped into the tank. I think the best way to make tanking feel better is to make it say, hey, maybe that support should think twice before they dunk their cooldown onto this target. And if they didn't passively heal, a lot of the times during the fight, because a lot of characters in these chip duels, where a lot of these duels happen, the supports can hide for 1 or 2 seconds and they get healed up just enough to be past the break point in a duel that you would normally win, and they wouldn't even have to make the proper play. So what scared me the most was the willingness to go forward even more with passive healing. And now obviously Aaron came out and said, oh, it wouldn't be to the same degree. But man, I think a lot of people I think they need to have a very thorough discussion about role passives in general before they continue to just say, oh, well, let everybody have it. Well, what is that going to do? I think it's going to make tanking even worse. That's my fear. My fear is that now, not only is there going to be like the Ana who can always save the nade and do all this stuff, Sombra and Perma Invis, even if it's a worse version of the passive, like what about an Ashe just being able to perma hold an angle now, right? On the certain part of the map where you need a support to hold it. Like a lot of these things give the game structure. They give Overwatch its unique identity about how you have to approach fights. And the more that you add stuff like this, the farther it goes away from that, which is the game that many people love that gives it its unique identity. And like, I saw somebody tweeting out being like, no, this is great. Ryan can shield on the point and heal now. And it's like, you guys really think Reinhardt is going to be a big beneficiary of this? Some guy that only gets value when you have to stay in the fight in a place where you need to get shot. You really and that's why people's takes on Twitter frustrate me so much. It's like, man, guys, I love y'all, but you got to look at what's put in practice actually. Right. So,
I think of these things in a vacuum, not so much like in the game itself. Yeah.
Yes. And people they just don't discuss it and really, really think about it either. And it frustrates me to see people, one, being pro or against it on the developers if they aren't willing to follow the right thought process about how to test these things out. And so that's why I hate it, right? Because I think role passives just didn't work. And that's fine if it doesn't work. But the devs have not shown enough willingness to revert mistakes. Right? They have and that's been one of Overwatch's biggest problems. I think it's constantly been forward. And instead of taking a step back and really trying to understand what made people love these things, what did that? I think what Overwatch needs to do right now is take a step back towards that core gameplay philosophy they had back when the game originally came out. Overwatch 1 came out and how heroes worked and how things worked. And especially in 5v5 where the tank player is just so much more vulnerable. That's how it ended up playing out. That should be priority number one. Like the support, I'm telling you right now, I'll put all my chips on the table on this. If that support passive gets drastically nerfed, 5 seconds, right? DPS doesn't even get theirs, right? Like it's not like tanking in this game would be 10 times better. Throw that in quick play. Like, please do a quick play hacked with some of this stuff before you guys decide to just throw it in the game. I'm begging you. Like experiment a little bit, right? Experiment a little bit because there's a reason why every tank player that's been on this podcast, from Flats to Boger to Yeatle to Salt, all of them unanimously have come out and been like, yeah, this kind of like the tank players got abandoned. Let's try to focus on balancing the power between roles, because in 5v5 at least it made that balance a little bit more lopsided. And I think the support passive, I can't personally, this is a personal note, I cannot tell if it's because of the role passives or if it's because of 5v5. I think this one is the role passives and not 5v5. And I just like to see that get fleshed out before they can say, all right, let's give it to everybody, even if it's less. Let's take a step back and really make sure that our foundation's good first.
There's so many great points there that you've raised there, Flats, Sam, because I know you wanted to tag it into Flats, talking about the biggest mistake being the tank hasn't been addressed, talking about the inability to kind of go back on certain ideas that don't work. I want to quickly take it to Fareeha. I know Flats is cooking, but I want to take it to Fareeha because we haven't heard from her in a while. So Fareeha, anything you want to vibe off of what Sam said, or your own thoughts about the self-healing role passive?
Okay, so I don't think that the passive healing, the self passive, is going to come on its own. I don't think it's a change in a vacuum that they're just going to slap on the game and ship it. I think it's going to tweak many things across the board, because you can't just tweak that and not also change how supports interact with just like their regular healing, how how damage is counted, all of these things. And so I am curious to see what they have lined up for us. And also, remember earlier when we were talking about game philosophy? And what would you say Overwatch's like main philosophy is if you had to take a stab at it?
I got no clue, bruh. I'm out.
No idea? Anything?
I can tell you what Jeff Kaplan's was.
Oh yeah?
Have a complicated game at first and make it easier over time. And I would say most of the heroes that have come out probably adhere to that model, from Lifeweaver to even like a Lari Pylon, stuff like that. Like, you had, look at the original heroes, which were very mechanically demanding, and you look at how they transition over time. They're trying to make the game more approachable to a wider audience.
Yeah. I think you hit on a really good point there. I think it's agency. I think that's a really big one. The reason that Overwatch has appealed to so many people is because it sells this fantasy of, well, you don't have to be a big FPS player. This could be your very first one, but like, look, you can come into this game. You have these abilities. You have this ultimate that you can earn through, doing a good job, and then you can turn the tide of a battle. You alone can do this. And this player agency is what's so alluring about Overwatch, is because you can affect so much change in a team fight over the course of a game. And I feel like the best games are the ones where you feel like you are the one straddling the line, you are the difference maker, and the deciding factor whether this game is lost or won. And I feel like part of why Tank feels so bad right now and why so many Tank players are worried by this change is that Tank doesn't have a lot of agency. Because look at TF2, where you have these lobby sizes of like 24 players, right? And you are like one amongst a pile of ants, It is hard to track sometimes a single spy or a single sniper way in the back lines when you have like 10 other people in front of you, right? When it's just pure chaos, unimaginable. But when Overwatch turns from 6v6 to 5v5, there's less factors to pay attention to. And so as a tank, you just get looked at more naturally. You take the brunt of everything because there's just less to divide that attention. And I think that this passive healing is going to put more agency in the hands of support players, in the hands of flankers, and I'm also worried about tanks because I don't know how they're going to be affected by all of this. But I feel like with, more agency for variety, more viability for flankers to be out in the backline on their own and not have to worry about, oh, I have to spend 5 seconds going for this health pack, or I risk getting one shot. I think it opens up more fun for everyone. I think it's an overall good thing.
Interesting. I will let Flats go now because, Sam tagged you in a little bit and you've probably been stewing over that one for a little bit. Your ideas on like tank and they're affecting with the passive, but also Sam's statement about that's the biggest issue that Overwatch needs to attack first.
So, okay. There's a lot. Really quick before I forget. There's something about like how they don't walk back changes. I'd say this year they've been pretty decent about it. Things I think about off the top of my head are like the Moira and Feeble Orb. I think about like the May changes. Like they've when they've made some changes that don't work. Now they took way too long. Like we had the May change for like 4 seasons. It was like, what are you doing? It definitely took too long. But I would say this Overwatch team is much better than previous. Like Overwatch 1, like you were talking about like Brig with Rally. Like I don't think that they're really comparable in that sense. But you also make a really good point because like it takes too long if they ever do it at all. But I want to give it the credit that it definitely is better than it used to be, which is nice. But I mean, here's the thing. Like I hate to say it, but like I kind of called it. Back in like season 2, season 3, when tank was getting nerfed down and supports were getting buffed in the ceiling, into season 4 and then into season 5. Tank didn't always feel bad in Overwatch 2. Actually, in the first beta was the best ever. And then the second beta was still really good, but like that was when they started experimenting with like Orisa a little bit more. And they like buffed Orisa, and they like I think they buffed Hog or in some way. I think that was when they changed like his ult so it couldn't be canceled anymore. There was like they were making these changes or whatnot to tanks to try to make them like better. Like other tanks were also kind of like getting buffed up, and it was kind of getting a little bit annoying. But overall, though, that was not like I don't at least at this moment I don't think it's like a Overwatch 2 issue. Like I think it's when they walked in, there was like such panic because Overwatch 1 tanks was always dominant. Like it was like tanks was what set the pace for your game. Like if your tanks were terrible, like you probably lost. Which is not the case at all in Overwatch 2. Like if anything, like you can win a game with a terrible tank. Like I still remember a game where I played against Jay, and their Rhine was 3-15, and we almost lost. And I was like, this is unbelievable. Like I was just lost for words. But the thing is like if you've ever seen any of the tanks like come on these podcasts or whatever, like maybe I'm just biased, and sure you can say that. But I feel like every tank player is like super down to earth with balance in this game. Like when we had the tank debate, we were all talking about ways like you could nerf tanks, like in certain ways. Like, oh, like if you really needed to do this, or like we were willing to give up little more pieces. Like we didn't even need to do that. Like if anything, it should be the opposite at this point. And I understood in the beginning of Watch 2, it made sense because support was playing a brand new game. It was a whole new dynamic, the way the game was played, the pacing, whatnot. So like they needed some help, but like the way we did it was like we crushed down the tank's power a bunch, and we brought up support power a bunch. And so that role that's by itself that needs to be able to stand out and be strong doesn't have that power anymore. And if anything, every player has that same power. DPS doesn't have the staying power, but it has the stopping power, right? While support has the same staying power, it feels like, as a tank a lot of the times, while also having the stopping power of somewhat close to a DPS, right? So there needs to be some major changes, but people also like freak out at tank changes, right? Like they freak out if a tank gets buffed, and it's like it didn't even really like do a lot, right? Like sometimes like it doesn't feel like it does a lot because you still feel like you either just get one shot or you don't have an effect on the game. So how do you fix that? I'm not really sure off the top of my head, but you made a good point about passives. And going into Overwatch 2, I feel like they touted passives as one of the big things they're going to change every season, and then it literally never got changed, like ever. Like remember the first beta, we had the DPS passive that was like the 10% speed buff, and that was like the support Dead by Daylight killer. And then they got changed to the reload, and then it never changed again. And like characters like Hanzo don't even fucking use it. It's like how the hell are we over a year into the game and the DPS passive still doesn't work for Hanzo? Like we couldn't come up with something else. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm kind of with you on like there's a lot of things that need to be changed. And like there's also a lot of things that we've been told that there'll be changes for, and then they just never fucking happen. And I don't know if it's like priority, right? Like they've told us before, like certain things like priority, like, oh, you know, like we have to work on this, or like, you know, whatever kind of things come up. But Sam also kind of nails it with like the closet analogy, which, by the way, is that a thing? Because I don't do that.
No, I do my laundry. I do my laundry, to be fair, but I do my laundry. But it was just I don't know.
Yeah, but I know what you meant though. Of like we just kind of push these problems down the road, and like I think that's a good one we have now, where you know we have the support passive that was very much necessary when the DPS passive was the speed boost, especially, and then we changed the DPS passive, kept the support passive. But then the support passive, like as people learn the game, you didn't really need it as much, if at all, anymore. But it was still such like
balance a lot too. It's affected like on a nade's been progressively nerfed for it too. So like it's continue.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And actually, you know what's funny? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it was like season 2 or season 3, they changed Ananade to what it is right now, and it was like way too much of a nerf. It was like, oh my god, like And Anna's like not that good now. And then she just got nerfed to like where it is again, like in the most recent patch, and nobody even notices this. Like it's like, it's whatever, it's fine. And it's like you got to kind of realize that like that's not like there's been breakpoints in the game of change. It's like people now learned how to play Overwatch 2. So these other changes that were made in the beginning to help people need to be taken back now, and they've never gotten taken back.
Yeah, which goes back to Sam's initial point about the slowness or sometimes full-on reluctance to change things that I think the community feels are problematic. Though I also sympathize as the developer, you have to take the mature decision to be like, we're going to ignore our community on this one because we think this is right. But then you got to be right. You got to be right when you do that.
Yeah, it's not easy. And that's why I tell people like they need to listen to us. I said, listen, I don't care if they listen to us or not. If they end up doing a good job, they could tell me to go kick rocks and pound sand for all I care, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you're making shots, you're making shots. But I think just to reiterate on what Flat said, and this is an important note that people need to understand, it makes me really irritated when I see this. Tank's issues are not balance issues right now. It's not. I genuinely don't think the problems and the frustrations from playing Tank come from balance. It's all of this other stuff that they've added into the game. And this is where I'm just gonna speak my mind here for a second. The one thing that I hope Blizzard's not doing, and I can't really speak to this because I haven't spoken to anybody personally about it. Don't be attached to a thing like role passives just because it's the new thing that makes this look like Overwatch 2. The reality is with Season 9 now around the corner, that really is kind of Overwatch 2.5. I'll say kind of like how Warzone had Warzone 2.5, and there was like a lot of big changes the Raven software made that people really liked the game compared to when they went to Warzone 2. Don't stay too attached to these things at this point in time. Just try to really sit down and analyze what makes the player experience better. And please, and I have no conjecture on that whether or not like they are or not doing this. I'm just saying in general to be clear. But don't die on the hill of something that's making. Bottom line is, I'd like to see them nerf the support passive way more and see where things are at. That's what I'd like to. Think about how much. By the way, I went down in my video and I went over how supports have been buffed even since then. Right, Brig packs massive buffs. Right, Brig is way better. The new rally, despite people saying it was bad when it came out, ended up being pretty good. Flats, isn't that crazy?
No way.
The Group Up podcast is out here just trying to gaslight Nuclear. These streamers are haters. Oh, wait a minute. We were right again. Who could have seen that? It's almost like
I remember a lot of people said the rally, like old rally, was a lot better.
Yeah,
I don't know about that one, Chief.
750 HP shield and a stun is pretty freaking dang good, guys.
So you see this hitbox on the stun too? Like,
yeah, it's massive. It's massive. It's very, very good. It's just like the use case got different. And people, again, Flats, to reiterate what you said, they didn't give it the time to develop and learn it. Because it is, to be fair, it is different. It absolutely was different than the old rally, which was just stat monster, run it down mid. Like you actually have to be surgical with it. And I think, that's much better. But I think that, oh shoot, I forgot where I was going with this. But yeah, don't let people gaslight you into thinking the Tank's issues are balanced. It's not balanced right now. I think that they should be a little bit more willing to experiment with where the role passives are right now, or if they want them at all before they give it to everybody, because that's just more clothes in the closet, right? Let's do some laundry, folks. Let's do some laundry. That's the point.
Yeah, I think I want to take it to Fareeha in a second, because I think this is, again, speaks to her point about agency and kind of maybe that's, again, where we can attack, where it's like the tank players it just feels like a lot of the times you're at the mercy of what your team and the enemy team has picked, not necessarily what you're doing. You're just kind of like, well, they're doing that, so I can't do this anymore. I think we all roughly agree that it is good to get changes in the game. I think Sam is sort of saying that put these in another quick play hack. Don't just throw them into the game. I think the devs are kind of saying that like we're actually dropping a whole bunch of changes, which is why we're going to drop them straight into comp and not into just a quick play, because we want to bring a whole like cohort of changes. I guess to play devil's advocate, a point I would bring up is that maybe this is the wrong season to do that, because you're also reworking the comp system to reset a bunch of people, and now you're going to reset the game. So you're going to it's going to be a whole shit show where your rank is going to get reset, but then also your playstyle could potentially get reset if there's a bunch of changes. There's going to be some winners, some losers, and then let's say for argument's sake, they realize that a lot of the changes were bad. They go back on a lot of the balance changes. But now there's people again who have kind of managed to weasel their way into SR that they didn't really deserve. People are going to be like, these guys are boosted again, and they don't play a lot, so they can't their SR.
Freshmen. There's a big distinction. People need to learn a distinction between somebody who's new that needs to learn from mistakes. Like that's literally a part of the learning process for any activity on this planet. Frustrating to see that. Go ahead, SVB. Sorry.
No, but just the point being that there's going to be winners and losers, and people are going to feel like some of those might be undeserved if some of those changes are then reverted. And likewise, someone might feel like they were harshly done by because they were actually bad in the first season that the changes came out, but then they got better, and then then they were punished. So actually, I'm going to quickly read Gavin's response already before I go take it to Fareeha. Gavin says, biased take, but I think it's the best time to do that because the rank reset. The game will have genuinely changed a lot, so we'll be finding out who is the best at the new version of the game. And that's definitely an argument, but again, the point is the new version what you're going to stick with? Are you going to stick with that new version, or are you going to realize that the new version isn't the version we wanted? And then if you have to revert, that's where the problem lies. It could go well. Again, it could be, as Gavin says, that the changes come out and this is actually a great version of Overwatch we want to stick with, and then the people who thrive are rewarded accurately. But again, it's like, well, what if we don't like what we came up with and we gave a bunch of people rank for it? So that's it. Again, that was the devil's advocate hypothetical. But I'll take it to Fareeha again, just in line with these big changes, the passive. What is your kind of vision? What do you think should be going on?
It's like maybe they're finding that along with agency, another philosophy of the game should be speed and flow. Because I'm trying to think of an example of like, what is a torturous game of tank? You've okay, so it's Coliseo, right? It's Coliseo, you've locked in as tank, and you're walking to the bot for the very, very first time. And oh no, they have a bastion. Okay, let's outweight that turret form. Let's hide behind this pillar, and then we peek again, right? When he's out of that. Oh, they discorded me. Okay, well, better peek again behind this pillar to like lose Discord. And it's great that they gave us this counterplay so that you can actually do something about Discord. But like, what resource are you expending in order to counterplay it? Your time. You are actively not playing the game in order to counteract the fact that they have a Zen, right? The fact that they've selected a hero means that you have to, every couple of seconds, just like hands off the keyboard. And maybe that's what they're doing in like quick play hacked. And maybe that's what they're doing with these changes is like, what if you can make it so that the time you spend behind that pillar, right? Just like doing your counterplay, waiting out cooldowns, is a little bit shorter, and that you can be healed up faster, and that you have new passives perhaps that help support that, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that, and that's probably where some of the vision comes from. Is this like, well, it gives tanks and DPS a bit more parity. I think I'm in. We've talked about this in the podcast before, where Sam and me in particular have kind of been like, I think we should just do away with the passives and find a different solution. So I mean, again, I'm all for them trying a new thing, and there's going to be a bunch of changes. We'll talk about some more of them in a second. But yeah, I think me personally as well, while I'm open and I hope that these are helpful changes, right? I just can't off the top of my head really envision too many situations where hiding for 3 seconds and getting 20 HP back is really going to matter to a tank. Like
they have to in 5v5 they have to be frontlining.
Right. If you're hiding, you're
it's counterproductive. So my biggest fear with this, sorry to interrupt you, SVB.
No, go ahead.
Is the gap between tanks having fun and the other roles of squishies that are the ones that are going to benefit is just going to get bigger and bigger when you've had Flats and all the other tank players on here being like, yeah, man, I'm just getting drum fish. Fareeha, you come around on Coliseo, you're just a fish in a barrel. They're on the high ground. There's a Sojourn holding rail all game. All right. Boom, I'm dead. But I do like the Discord. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're right. And I think my personal thing would have been scrap the changes, start somewhere else, like scrap the passives because they're not doing what we were promised they were going to do. And I do think as well, as Sam alluded to, a lot of that reluctance does come from, I think, a desire to not go back on what was the brand IP of Overwatch 2, the 5v5. I think that's obviously why we'll never go back probably on 6v6, is that was the whole Overwatch 2 thing. Like, even though we know Overwatch 2 was PvE, but then when we've already kind of gone back on that. So if you go back on the 5v5, well, what is the Overwatch 2? People are going to bring it back to like, well, did we really need Overwatch 2 then? It's just Overwatch 1. And then these are like these small changes that would add to that narrative, right? Which is that like if you took the role passes away, well, those were on the trailers. I remember the trailers, right? And obviously we changed the DPS passive, but I remember the trailers are like, look at Genji and Tracer, they run in real fast now.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they go back on all of these, then they feel like maybe they've lost something too big that's beyond balance. It's like an unquantifiable marketing thing that they've lost. So any more thoughts on that kind of area of discussion from Flat, Sam, or Fareeha, if you guys want to mention anything before we move on to some other things?
I want to add on to a little bit of both real quick about agency. And I think Flats, you mentioned like sometimes on tank, you said it was not volatile. What did you say, buddy? You said like you felt a certain way about how your tank fights go. Well, we'll just go ahead.
Is it when like two tanks are competent, you're not really doing a lot? Is that the one?
Yes, when your two tanks are doing something, you're not really doing a lot. That's because the actual exchange between tanks in 5v5 particularly is less valuable, and there's less agency that you have over the game because for the most part, the stats have been raised so high, you can't. There's not a real skill expression. You saw I had Hawk talk about this a lot, SVB, where he's like, I can't gap like the equivalent of 4100 player because the ability strength has had to become so strong. Like it's at its skill floor more forgiving, where in the previous game, you at the skill ceiling were able to do a lot more because the amount of like for example, a 400, like if you're playing Ryan Zarya, it's Flats and Emong versus me on Zarya and Frito on Reinhardt, which Flats, I hope you win that. My money's on Flats on that one. But for example, like if I misused a bubble and both of our tanks had less health, Flats and Emon could recognize that, and there was actually an exchange where they could like pounce on that in Overwatch 1. And because the stats have been made so much higher in general, it's still there. It's just much more diminished, and it's harder to make that happen, especially with support abilities being stronger. And now with only one tank to force both immos, as they've added 2 more immos to the game. While in Overwatch 1, there was only one immo. The other one was Brig, who was like a massive amount of healing, but that there's just less ability to express that agency for a tank, which is why, again, if they're gonna die on the hill of immorts, at least make it so that the supports have to use them more, and it's easier for the other 2 roles to force them, so that agency can come back to tank. If they're adamant about staying with 5v5, I think that's where they should put their drive and focus. But I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I just wanted to add on to that.
Sure, appreciate that. Fareeha, Flats, anything you want to add on this area?
I remember you said counterplay. I remember that clip where we played quick play where I was full HP and I jumped in on Junkertown and I exploded before I hit the ground. You remember that?
I mean, and it's always funny because anytime a clip like that occurs, someone's like, well, you should have done this. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, that just shouldn't happen. Like, what happened just should not have happened.
Well, it was literally after the Zen patch, and I baited out the Discord, and I was like, now there's counterplay. I literally didn't make it. Like, like the first point bridge and the where you hold, I didn't make it from the bridge to the other bridge. Like I died midair, like from full HP.
Well, you see, you should have turned your head to the coast so that the Widowmaker sitting on the high ground couldn't have shot you in the head, and so that it's just like.
And then you could have survived.
It shouldn't happen.
Then you could have survived on 50 HP and died when you landed instead. There you go. Yeah. I think again, like a lot of these like clip pickings are always like, oh yeah, Flats is sharing the clip here. But a lot of these like clip pickings, I think they attack the nitty gritty instead of like what is the bigger sentiment, which is like this just shouldn't be a thing. Okay, well that's discussion on like tanks, and that we'll always be probably going on and on about the state of tanks or supports or whoever it is that's currently a problem. Actually, one big picture thing that I will ask you guys on that issue, because I saw some takes being thrown around on Twitter and stuff, and I saw like ML saying like, hey, we should maybe just reconsider what support means in Overwatch 2, considering you guys keep changing stuff around. And J3 on the other end of it was like, fuck supports, like they should just go back to doing what support should do, healer, just be a fucking healer again. So
not again.
I think Jay's mostly trolling with that, by the way, but like also like slightly real.
I feel like he doesn't mind going like extreme with it because he doesn't care if people like quote unquote misrepresent him. He just likes throwing that shit out.
He's a troll.
Yeah, but it is a discussion worth having, which is that like where philosophically should support land? Like, is it roughly correct where we are now, just maybe overtuned or whatever, or other roles need buffs, or do we need to have that conversation about supports being more healers, quote unquote? I'll take it to Fareeha first. Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
I am a creature of murder. I simply do not care for like Mercy or Lifeweaver, like gameplay wise myself. I like playing Kiriko and doing the little shit thing of like running up a wall, sliding down a roof, and two-tapping a support and TPing out. Like I love doing that. And so I'm not a good person to ask. I think I would be devastated if they made supports just, healers, and that's all they can do, because I think they are, I don't know, they're really dynamic and they're really fun, and it's like they have the most powerful abilities in the freaking game. But yeah, no, they're just better DPS right now.
Sam.
Fareeha, I disagree with you. I think you're the perfect person to ask for it, because
Really?
because you're completely right. Supports should be able to do all these things, right? The problem with support is not that they can do these things. Like, you never, like, this is what frustrates me so much about the Overwatch forums, where they say Samito's just a support hater, blah blah blah. I love support. Like, I played the role in pro play. Ana's my favorite character in the game, and I play most of DPS, right? And I think this is why a lot of people like to listen to like my theory videos and stuff, because I genuinely am fair to all three of the roles. Taking away support's abilities to do damage. What about a hero like Zenyatta? That's the exact kind of thing that made Overwatch a beautiful game. That's what made it win Game of the Year, was the diversity of the agency that Fareeha talked about in this. The only problem right now with why support is so strong is that it doesn't matter if they misuse their abilities, just like every other hero in the game, because they get healed for free after 2 seconds and they haven't walked it back once. They nerfed it by half a second. And you're going to tell me that, support should have the, no. So DPS players, if you're complaining about supports being able to kill you, that is not the problem. The problem is the risk to reward for what they get to do. That has always been the problem with every single problematic support for literally 4 to 5 years. So no, the issue is not that they get to do it. You want to make sure that all of the roles are still special. I hate Widowmaker, but I would never say that you need to remove her one shot. You have to nerf her indirectly, because the number one thing that Overwatch cannot afford to do, and this is where I will say I think Team 4 has done a good job, except for Genji. His hero fantasy has been destroyed, and it's criminal. It's criminal that they're listing things like, yeah, we're not letting Lifeweaver we're letting his pedal now block all things. Like Moira Coalescence would go through it. I was doing an unranked GM Moira. I tried to call the Lifeweaver. I'm like, why did that stop? Ram Pummel went through it, right? Like, that's, to me, that's kind of like Zarya Beam and Winston Beam going through DM. Like, those minor interactions that allow you to like kind of counterpick something. That's what makes the game so special. And like, having supports that can do that are fine. It's just not fine when Kiriko can take that duel at no risk whatsoever, right? That's where the problem is. It's not fine when the supports never get punished or actually have a significant downside to misusing Life Grip, to misusing Lamp, to misusing whatever, or their BAP shift, right? Because they know that in the little times that they actually can just go out and poke and get a small advantage to set up the duel that they know is coming, that they won't, if they can take that for free, because they're just gonna heal. Like Aaron, I'm begging you, before you go through with this, just try it. One quick play hack. Do yourself the favor, please. Because this is why the supports get the hate. And like, my highest peak in Overwatch 2 is support, right? I played Brig, and it was fun. They've got steady buffs, but just please, like, people, like, don't sit there and say support should only heal. That, like, what allows the role to have unique designs and diversity is the ability that it doesn't have to just be that, right? But the problem to it is not the designs, it's the risk to reward that they can get away with, and it stems from the underlying foundation that they have of that support passive. So giving that to everybody in the game, I don't think is better, but I think that you want to keep people like Fareeha playing support, because that special identity is what makes people log on every day, and it's what's made them log on for 7 years. So never stop designing supports like that. Just look at the risk to reward and how much those abilities do and how corny they are. That's all it is.
I got bingo. Sam turned as red as my lamp.
Oh, is that
bingo? No, I completely agree. Yeah.
Keep the game
can I go?
special.
Yeah, go for it. Go.
Okay. Just really quickly. Oh my gosh. you hit on so many good points there. It's like I do the same goddamn flanks as Kiriko as I have to do on Pharah, on Sombra, on Tracer. It's all about the timing. It's about like drawing out the resources, sometimes doing it in cycles. But it's so much riskier to do so on DPS. Like, you are putting your hand under a chopping block, under a little guillotine, every time you try to do these things as DPS, because the chances that you get healed are like lower unless you're queued with somebody. You know, the chance that you die doing so, it's fucked. And
It's a good line. I like that.
dude, like you there's
Yeah.
so many supports out there who just tunnel the tank, and it's like, bro, I'm right there. But yeah, like you are actively putting yourself at risk, unless unlike Kiriko, which you just go in and you're everything. You're the whole army yourself. You are the healer. You are the artillery. You are you are the comms. Like everything.
You know,
Go ahead, lads.
Sam said something very interesting there. And he talked about how they shouldn't lose their ability to, like, you know, kill things and whatnot. And I think there's a great example of what we've done with that role in Overwatch 2. And, you know, I've always wondered why. I know why we did it, because it was funny. But, like, long term, it was so fucking dumb. One of the best metas that people look back on fondly was dive meta. Original dive meta. Your Winston Diva, Tracer Genji, Mercy Zen. Now, everyone, you know, the Mercy thing is, like, you know, debatable. There's a lot of stuff there. But do you remember how you played dive? Now, let me explain. If you're new and you don't remember how you played dive, this is how you played dive. You walked up, you found the Zen, you go, Zen's over there. 3, 2, 1, go. And you dove the Zen. And the other team would do one of two things. Their tanks would counter dive, which counter dive meant turn around and dive your own Zen to save him. Or 2, you went and killed their Zen. The Zens always almost fucking died. They were the first ones gone. But the good Zens discorded the Winston on the way in, hit him with a shot or 2, maybe 3, while they had the orb on the Tracer. And when they died, they took 1 or 2 with them, or their Zen died, and that was how the game was played. But in Overwatch 2, we gave them 225 HP and a kick that's better than Lucio's boop with no cooldown. So you took away the glass cannon part of the character and made him a fortress. That's just a good example of one of the many characters that we've had that happen to. And you said
All the
Lifeweaver
sports,
with
all of them.
Yes,
Every
yes.
single BAP shift, burst heals over half health for targets under 50%.
Yeah.
Right?
And lamp, so you have effectively 3 health pools, right?
Mhm.
So like it makes them harder to kill. It just enables them to do so many things, and that's where characters have lost their niche. And I would argue the tank role is actually kind of lost in some ways its niche as well, because now there's multiple characters that inhabit the same niche, but some of them are just better than others. For example, when Overwatch 2 originally came out, Reinhardt was fucking great, and Orisa was okay, and you could beat up on Orisa in the Reinhardt-Orisa duel. How do I know this? Because I was one of the people that pre-beta in the alpha, they had me, because like a lot of the pros were really busy, they would have me play against all the Orisa players. Like they like hell, they even brought like Toaster back to figure out, like, they're like, oh, is this pretty good? And like I would beat all the Orisa players in the Reinhardt-Orisa duel every time, because I knew how to, like, she was still a wall at that point, but I knew that I could outlast her by playing my cooldowns and playing my shield correctly. Now I just get bullied, right? Like, and that's not because Orisa players got better. That's because, like, the way the character is played now just bullies all the other brawl tanks. So you have multiple tanks that inhabit the brawl area that all get shut down by one character that's really boring and unintuitive to play. And then on the dive end, like, you have supports that shut that whole thing down as well. So it's like, you know, if you're playing Winston or Doomfist or Diva, if they just go like on a break, like or break here, your fucking day is just over. Like, it's now there's just nothing you do. So like you've lost your identity in tank a little bit, but support has every identity, right? Like there isn't like, okay, you're playing Zen into Winston, Tracer, Genji, you got to get off or you're just going to die on cooldown. Now you can make it work. Like you can 100% make it work. And it's like, you know, when people argue like, oh, the game should be about swapping and whatnot. The counter swap game is for the tank role. Why is it not for the support role? Why is the support role just get to play whatever the fuck it wants and wins most of the time, right? So I don't know. Like I always look back at that change and I remember everyone like, holy shit, this is funny, it's goofy. But remember, there was no ranked at the time. Like we were all playing the game for fun because it was a beta. And like we look back at that and like everyone was like, yeah, that's fucking funny. It's cool. I like the Zen kick. Woo, it was good memes.
I didn't say that, to be clear. I was screaming bloody murder. I was like, Samito's just screaming about sports again. I was like, watch what's gonna happen. Just you wait. Yeah. That closet's gonna have a lot of dirty laundry in it one day.
If you think about like even Ryan as a good example, you like if I go near a 225 HP Zen, I actually just get kicked away. Like I'm not joking. Like I literally get kicked away. Like it's and you know how much resources it took to get there? I only have time for 3 swings, which is enough to kill him. So if he kicks me away, I can't get 3 anymore. I get maybe 2 and I'm dead. Like if I'm lucky, you know what I mean? So, and that goes to other characters too. That goes to Ball, that goes to Winston, that goes to Diva. Doomfist, I don't think as much, but it can. Like, yeah, it can be annoying
to be right there and he can knock you off of it.
Yeah, like, you know, like you're like because you're like the punch, you know, obviously that's a little bit different, but like, you know, it's just insane. And every character's got that now. And Life Weaver, you said, is a good example. Why the fuck did you take away the small interactions to go through this platform? Why? What's the point?
Less counterplay, less agency. And again, like I think it's a really tough conversation to have because again, Flats, that agency that you talked about, where I really like the word agency for you. That was I'm gonna credit you. I'm taking that from you.
I watched too much game dev video essays and
link me some of those. I'm curious.
Oh yeah, a lot of GDQ talks.
Interesting. I like that. What was I talking about, guys?
Agency,
agency. That's right. Yeah. That kind of interaction is what I think makes Overwatch beautiful. And I hate to hit the bingo card here, but a part of that is 5v5 and what 5v5 role lock has to do. And I might be turning to Nateson here, guys. I think, and this is my hot take, the best format that 5v5 has to offer to maintain that agency is actually open queue and not role queue. Because you don't have to do all those things to all those heroes. You don't have to have the tank be superhuman in an open queue in 5v5's format. So I think if Overwatch wants to hit its peak in Overwatch 2 with 5v5, it has to be an open queue with some kind of preferred role queue. I'm not saying that we have to do that, but like I can't. SPB, you've heard me try to think around it for 9 months, and I can't because there is no answer around it. But you can at least mitigate it by doing something specifically the role pass. I think that's the way you can mitigate it. But I think Flats is on the money there, especially like those supports. And this is why, and it's so interesting because we talked about this, guys. We said that we felt like the support role was immune to counter swapping because at the worst you'd lose the game and it would still be pleasant. And that's because the unique identity of these characters, their weaknesses are not punishable. Whether it be from Zen Kick or whether it be from the passive heal, or Ana never has to worry about nading herself, or rarely does because it always goes to their tank because she just gets bailed out. I really wonder if there's a way. I would love to see a quick play hack with some of these changes before they go on to the next shopping spree. Right? I don't know why I'm talking about clothes today. You know why it is, guys. I realize I have 2 different socks on. I admit it. They're long socks. It's snowing. It's cold. My feet are cold. All right, and I wanted to wear my flip flops.
As long as it's not like a Tuesday sock and a Wednesday sock, we're okay.
No, they look similar. They're just one has a different blue pattern on it. Okay.
Gotcha. Regardless. That's fine. That happens to the
that's
best
all I have. That's all I have to say. I'm gonna stop talking.
I think it's I've kind of let you and Flats go off there because I think they were great points that you guys were making. So while they weren't necessarily fully in line with the events of season 8 and season 9, I think they're relevant context to how we've gotten to where we've gotten and why these frustrations exist. Fareeha, do you have anything you want to add before we move on to the next topic?
I feel like I've covered most of the stuff I wanted to say. Yep. Yeah,
because what I was going to say to Sam then is that hopefully, I don't see them now putting in the quick play hack. I think they've announced it. I know how these things go. They've kind of put these things into motion. Yeah. So realistically, I think we're going to have these changes in season 9. We're going to experience them for the first time in potentially a competitive environment. And then all hell will break loose and we'll see where the chips land. But one good thing is that they have shown the inclination to experiment. So I do hope they do experiment with some of these bigger picture ideas. Like an open queue quick play hacked. I would be interested because I do think one of the problems of discussing open queue at the moment is that it has the experimental problem, but even worse, right? What the dev said is like with experimental, you're opting into experimental, so it's a biased sample. The problem with OpenQ at the moment is that it's a doubly biased sample. It's like such a small section of people playing it. Nobody really treats it as like the real mode.
And it wasn't actually balanced either. They
Right.
just kind of like lowered every tank's health pool. So like the abilities, like D.Va still has a 4-second DM. Like when combining that with the tank with other tanks, like it's crazy. Even if she has less health, like you can only really play Echo, and like Bap's the best hero in the game because he's just soldier that can AOE heal multiple times. So
Right,
yeah,
exactly. And so you would have to, because it's not the proper mode, we're not really accounting for so many things and so many design issues. So, and I understand it would be a lot of work for them potentially, but I do see the appeal, and I see this question not going away. So I do think they need to try and address some of these reasons why people keep going back to 6v6, for example, right? Reason why Samito's law exists is that there is something fundamental missing that people keep trying to gravitate towards, and I do think Overwatch needs to try and hit that. But that's where we have seen them announce a few ideas that they're messing around with, so I want to quickly check these off the box. So the one thing that I think is it should be pretty uncontroversial, but it's the PvE team health bar that they said that they're looking into adding that. So how do we feel about this? I feel like W change, the little health bar that comes up at the side.
just give it an option to toggle like ally health bars. Totally fine.
Yeah. More UI options is always good.
Yep.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I think it's one of those that will not necessarily help the highest end of players. Like I think if you're at the top end, you already kind of know what's happening to your teammates. But I think
it'll definitely help though.
It'll
I
definitely
don't know
help.
what my teammates are thinking.
Like support. Like if you're playing
Yes.
tank, like if you don't know your supports are fighting someone in the backline like randomly, like very quickly, you know?
Right.
Sometimes you don't hear it because there's a lot going on, so it's just
Exactly.
good for awareness, right?
Or yeah, anyone, like you see your tank's HP suddenly going down. Oh, they must be fighting. Or like again, your support's HP is going down. They must be fighting someone. But I think it'll doubly
good
really. Go ahead, Fareeha.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. There's a little bit of a lag. Yeah, it'll also help with the accessibility front, right? People who are hard of hearing or who have shittier headphones and can't quite tell. It's good.
100%. And I definitely think it'll help at the metal ranks where it's harder for people to track the kill feed, right? Like the kill feed, I think, is something that better players take for granted. Like they just have a corner of their eye on it and they're like, okay, I know 2 people are dead, so I'm not going to ult this fight because it's over. Whereas seeing it in there is like, the skulls on the portraits, you're like, okay, everyone's dead. It's just me.
Tunnel vision's a thing throughout all ranks. Like it was my biggest struggle when I first started playing. Like tunnel vision, like I had to sit down with my coaches for hours and be like, yo, like you got to stop tunneling. Like you got to start seeing the big picture. So that's I think it's a great addition.
I agree. Map voting. So this is something that Aaron Keller flagged up as a thing that they're thinking about. Is that should we allow people to vote maps? Again, I've seen arguments for and against. Some people feeling like, I mean, it's good, it's player agency, and it helps. Other people feel like, oh, well, should we really let people pick their maps? Like, isn't the skill of the game in being good at everything? And, like, if you're able to just, like, pick your maps, then you're kind of cheating the game and leaning into your own area. So I'll go with Sam. Sam, you kind of seem to be itching on that one.
What am I willing to sacrifice to never see Havana or Circuit again?
Same! Oh my
That's
God.
the question. It's like, if I'm going to be intellectually honest, I'm going to say no. Because that is a very valid point where it's like, if you can pick your maps, you can kind of min-max the system. And like especially like if you're a tank player in 5v5 and you're a Zarya player, being able to skip Circuit and Havana is essential to you climbing. Don't want to ever play Circuit or Havana ever again. Because can I say something? I'm going to say something. Sorry, Flats, real quick. The map people in Overwatch generally are great. You guys promised to rework maps in 5v5. How is it that Gibraltar got big changes before Havana 3rd or 2nd or any of Havana? You know what I'm saying? Like, not just one barrel. Give me a flank or something on the left side of Havana so we can get more comp variety, and then I'd be totally okay with it. I think, unfortunately, if I'm being honest with myself and prioritizing what I believe to be the truth over how I feel, probably don't do that because it definitely has gameplay implications. But I personally would like it, but I'm going to sacrifice my personal feelings for that point because I
I
can't.
think
refute
both
that.
can exist though. You
You
can
do?
both give the
How
player
so?
agency as well as make it not unanimous and all powerful. If you make it so that it's a vote in the lobby, like the players have been picked in, you know nothing about them, you haven't seen their names, but it's like the player is set, and everybody puts in like a token of like, I don't want to see this map, I want to see this map. However it works, and there's a chance that it goes through. No?
Fareeha's
work.
throwing the idea out.
I think so. Yes, that would mitigate it. Yes, I'd have to think about it more because
I think the counter argument would be what people put against hero bans, which is like, oh, longer in the selection thing. I don't want to spend longer in the menus.
Yeah.
Which is what people always bring up for
I
the
don't have
ban
the
thing.
answers. This is gonna
Flats,
frustrate
how do
me.
you feel about the map voting?
Wow. Okay, this might sound out of left field, but like, who cares? Like at that point, like to Sam's point, like no, like no. Who cares about like like players could play certain? Yeah, so what? Like, so what if someone can like climb by playing mostly Kings Row games? Like,
Yeah.
because if the argument is that they climb by mostly playing Kings Row games, then they're probably going to keep playing more Kings Row games when they climbed up. You know what I mean? So I understand the implications behind it, but at the same time, though, is it like the way I would envision it is like almost like old Call of Duty style, where you have two maps to pick from or a third random mystery map, right? And it's like
I like that. That would fix it. That would fix it.
that gives us like, okay, we got two shit maps. Like we got Havana and Circuit Royale. I do not care. We'll play the third, and then it's Dorado. And you're like, fuck, like like you don't want to play Dorado, but like you felt like you had some control. I feel like that's way better, and I maybe I'm being a little bit harsh here, but I feel like it's like almost elitist to be like, no, let the game always decide. It's like, why take away some fun from the players? Like, if you want to play certain maps or you like certain game modes more than others, I don't see if there's like a massive problem with it. I think doesn't CS allow you, like, there's people that play CS and they like only play one map like all the time, like that's the only thing they play, and it's like, is that really the worst thing in the world? And now obviously, like, there's an argument on the opposite side. It's like, what happens when you get a sim one trick and it's Junkertown, right? And it's like, well, if I have a sim one trick on my team, they're probably going to vote for maps that are going to be beneficial to them, right? So, you're going to have the same thing either way. I think, like, statistically it would balance out, where if you have a really good Widow player, they're going to want to play Junkertown Havana or Circle Royale. But if you don't have a good Widow player, they're not going to be wanting to play that map. So your team's going to be voting away from it. So, like, I think there's both sides that, like, even the argument against it plays almost as a way to argue for it. Obviously, it depends on how they end up implementing it. Like, I'm not saying, like, you should be able to literally just only play Lijiang Tower over and over and over. Because, like, obviously at that point, like, if you're, like, really good at Symmetra, right, you could probably just fucking jack your rank up to the moon, But then at the same time, though, if they only ever play Lijiang Tower, then they're also playing against other people that are also really good at playing Lijiang Tower. So it would kind of work out. But I'd rather have much more control over my destiny in the game than let the magic matchmaker do it.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You make your point. Go on.
No, I was going to say that any decision with game development always comes with its pros and cons, right? I think people always discuss these things as like, it's unilaterally good or unilaterally bad, but it's like they will provide some benefits and some negatives. So there is the possibility that, like, people can sort of game the system a little bit and gain maybe a little bit more rank than they otherwise would by guiding their preferences in a direction. But I also think the king that we want is that the player should have fun and they shouldn't feel miserable locking into any map, and removing the feeling of players being like, oh my fucking god, I don't want to play this map, is like surely worse than, like, the situation that we've tried to alleviate elsewhere, where we're like, oh, I hate being in a game that's losing, and, like, I want to leave this quick play game, but now the game is punishing me. This is like that, but worse, where it's like, if you load into Havana and it's like, I hate this map and I know it's going to be a Widow diff because they have a Widow and I don't, like, I just don't want to play it. Taking that away. Right, or or it could be something else. Because I know for some people they're like, I love Havana. I'm a Widow player. Let me have Havana. But let's say it's a different map, right? Let's say you hate Kings Row because you just hate the like brawly comps that get run there.
Because you hate
That's
humanity.
okay. That's okay. You're allowed to like tailor your own playing experience to be a little bit more pleasant for you. And I think on the big picture, what it provides the devs is great statistics for what are the problematic maps, right? Because right now we talk anecdotally about like, we think Havana's problematic, we think, Circuit's problematic or whatever, Junker Town's problematic. But when you know that like, wow, seems like 50% of our player base is banning Havana, shit, maybe we really need to rework that map because everyone fucking hates it, right? It's like, that's like tangible data for the developers to know.
It's more information too of like how the player feels about it, not just overall win rates.
Exactly. Go ahead,
I have
Sans.
deja vu.
You made a really good point too in there. It's like about like gaming the system and whatnot. And like maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I feel like we've gone too hard against gaming the system. Like we're so fucking petrified of it that we've lost so much good stuff. And I think like we talked about this in the past with like the stacking stuff, right? Like playing with your friends. And like part of the reason it was originally taken away was because people would game the system. You'd VPN to Australia at 4 a.m. and fucking farm rank 1. But like who's rank 1 right now? Does anyone know? Who's rank 1 at this exact moment? Does anyone know? Is it actually?
Yeah, but nobody cared. But you're right.
Nobody cares.
You're right.
Like
you're right. Is the point?
It's lost its luster, and like the rank system is designed to play less games. Like I hold pretty high top 500 every season, playing bare minimum. Like that's it. Like the system is designed to play less ranks. Like if you play more games, you actually fall than playing less games. So the rank system's already designed to not play that often, right? Like it's designed basically that if you're already high MMR, you just play your 50 wins and then you're fucking stacked up somewhere. But if you play more games, you're going to fall down, right? So we already have a rank system currently. Obviously it's going to be changed, right? Like we know that that's coming. But the current system already makes it so like you're incentivized to not play that much. That's why we have alt accounts running around all over the place. If you look after the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of the season, everyone's talking about like people slurring in their games, people throwing, like the fucking goes up through the moon. Like everyone's completed their battle pass and they're done with their games with ranked for the season. So they're on alt accounts. Like what? Like nobody talks, everyone's out of voice. Like we're already there. And like we created this problem by doing shit like this where we're so terrified of, oh my God, like those guys are gonna 5-stack Australia at 4 a.m. and get rank 1. Go ahead, fucking have fun, dude. It was fun. Like
it was fun.
We lost good things by doing all of those. And like I think that this is a great example with the map stuff. It's like you're like we were saying, it gets good data. Like if nobody wants to play, like what's a map that everyone universally probably hates is either like Circuit Royale, Dorado. I'd throw in there.
I
feel like it's Havana. I feel like Havana.
I could play
peak
Havana
candidate.
because you're saying the Widow players was like Havana.
But
you know
on
what I mean?
par, like everyone's gonna like or maybe like Coliseum or something.
Parisu. Does anyone like Parisu?
No, I don't.
Parisu might be the one actually, low key. But point is that like nobody wants to fucking play those maps, and so you give power to the players, and like it feels better, but like we don't want to give it there because like someone might abuse the system. It's like that's the same reason why we don't have a streamer mode at this point, because people didn't want to give a streamer mode because like what if someone talks shit anonymously and like you're not going to be able to know who? Yeah, but like the benefits of streamer mode way outweigh that potential downside, and like there's ways around the downside. Like oh man, guys, go ahead. No, I'm pretty much done. It's just I get worried about stuff like that.
To add on to this is where I think game design gets very fun, because to quote Jeff Kaplan, I liked this take a lot. As he said, it's art and science. I'm a very science guy. I'm not very good with art. I got to be in art class where all you had to do was show up to get an A. I'm not even kidding. Shout out Mr. Behrman. We had a great time, but I definitely did not deserve an A. If you saw my self-portrait, you would agree. It's terrible. But it's, and this is where I kind of agree with you, Flats, in that I feel like that special element is kind of gone. And you know what? You want to queue 3 a.m. and 6-stack. And you want to know what used to happen to the guys that used to do that, right? Do that.
2-hour queues.
2-hour queues. Oh no, we'd wait for them. You guys want to stack goats? All right, fine. We set our alarms 1:30 in the morning, and we knew when they were going to get on. The IRS stack, Kaluge, Boostio, all those guys, they would wait for them, and then they would just snipe them all night. That was fun. That was a part of the fun of the game. It made ladder magical, right? So I kind of agree with you guys. I'm down for the map vote. I think I'm okay with it in that sense. And then to answer more of your questions about things like streamer mode, I agree. I think launch Overwatch used to have a ton of those little special things that, yeah, sure, they could get abused, but you know what? People liked them either way. I even disagree with some people being like, these people are min-maxing the ladder. Or, yes, like min-max, like avoiding players has been maxing ladder. So where is it okay and where is it not, right? And like, and you know what? You want to know why the top level GM1 players are queuing with GM2, GM3 alts? Because the queue times are miserable. I queued into like 3 or 4 contenders players running low GM lobbies on alts, and I'm telling my chat, I'm like, yeah, you can tell, right? When they're a contenders player, you're an out player, you're playing against them, you can see the stuff they're doing. At least I can. I think most people can't. You can tell when it's like a real player, right? And it's like, and I just typed to them, I was like, guys, get on your mains, and they're like, God, my queues are an hour and a half, and I believe it. Because there's no incentive for the high. Like, I can't even play on my main because I'll sit in queue for 8 minutes.
There's no reason to even play on your main.
Smoked. There's no reason to, right? So that's why I'm glad for the new system. And I think that those kind of things are what made this game special. And it gave it, again, the agency, the identity. The lines have all been blurred, right? And I think ML made a tweet about this, about Junker Queen applying anti, which I did disagree with. I think Queen's like anti is fine on her ult. But he basically said, like, hey, like, supports used to have this unique identity. And my argument to that would be, well, now support has an identity of everything in the game. So you guys still gained a lot. You got to be a tank and a DPS and a support. So I think it's fine. But generally speaking, I think that those special things are part of the art aspect. And I admit that's kind of my shortcoming when it comes to this stuff. So I'll defer to you all on this one. But I'm willing to put aside that's a little too much. Push the glasses up. Well, actually, this. No, let's have some fun with it. Yeah, exactly. So have some fun with it. I'm all for it.
Fareeha, I'm gonna take it to you as maybe someone like me who doesn't perma occupy top 500 spots. I hope that's not an insult. I think you just have not grinded for it recently. How do you feel about what's being said here and sort of just the general ideas being exchanged?
I think it's such a slippery slope to be like, oh, you can't game the system. Because sometimes, for me, I'm just like, you bitch, you counter-swapped me after losing one fight. And is that gaming the system? Is it gaming the system to one trick? Because I think that the game is infinitely easier when you get to see it from the perspective of one hero and like a lot, right? Like the game gets easier and rewards you for doing so, which is like in direct contrast to how upset people get at one tricks. It's like, it's disproportionate. And it's like that is a really, really slippery slope. And it's like, okay, if you're good at knowing your weaknesses and spotting them out, say you are that Symmetra player and you understand that Li Zhang is a naturally good pick for you because you can occupy space in a way that you can't on, say, like Nepal or like whatever, Antarctica. Good for you, right? And if it is a balance of, oh yes, it's a percentage role that every single player gets to contribute to, and it's not just like, oh, your vote is everything, I think that'll be really, really good. Like, there's a 10% chance that your contribution is the thing that makes it so you don't have to play Havana. And it's like, if I see Havana 10% less for it, fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. I think with top 500 as well, as someone who largely sits on the outside looking in, I've also been able to rather shamelessly just sit, like, camp like a top 100 spot by just like grinding 50 games at the start of the season, and I haven't touched that account, and I've just left it there, and I feel cheap about it, but I'm also like, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm
playing
holding
correctly.
Not worth it.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to play. That is correct.
And it's just
rewards
like
you for that.
But someone is that kind of understands both perspectives of it. I do think when it comes to top 500, because this is definitely like a 1% problem, but I think as SK's video really eloquently stated it, it's like that is supposed to be the goal. If you lose the allure of top 500, then like everything else cascades and falls. If you never want to grind everyone should want to get there, right? Even if you feel right now your skills aren't there, everyone should feel like, I want to get good enough to be in these lobbies that these guys are talking about. I feel like for top 500, you need to create that like almost familiar experience for everyone, right? Like I think what you guys always lament whenever I hear you guys talk about these is always like that feeling of like, we're all kind of playing a game within a game, right? We're all kind of like, oh, I know that guy. I want to beat that guy. Oh, that's my friend. That's my buddy. We've played a couple times before. And like you want to create this feeling where it's like everybody's in an ecosystem together because it's a small community by nature of 500 players. Or let's say there's like 10,000 players who bounce between top 100, let's say, I don't know what the number is, right? That's still a very small community within the millions that play Overwatch. So you kind of want them to feel like we do know each other vaguely. We go like, you know, it's like if you, Sam, I'm gonna channel my inner Samito. If you're going to a basketball, you know, pick up basketball game in the you know, the courts at the park or whatever, you want to hop in and you go to the same place every week. You want to know the guys. You're like, yo, it's that guy. Yo, let's play. Okay, I know what we're gonna do.
I'm crossing you up, buddy. You're gonna have a tough day. You're gonna need an ice pack and an ambulance for those ankles by the time I'm done.
You want to know all these things, but like, imagine if everyone turned up with like balaclavas, right? Like everyone's just like wearing a mask and you have no idea who the fuck they are, and it's like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it's like, what's the fun in this? Like, you know, like, so you want the feeling that like it's a community within a community, and you want to feel like you're a part of it, and there's like an extra allure to that. And I feel like that's what they need to try and recapture, because what they've really done, and it's not deliberate by any means. It's not that they did this on purpose, but what's happened via various changes that's completely slipped away. And as you guys said, like, I don't want to play. And there's the streamer element to this, right? Because so many of the top hundred are streamers. I never want to play on my main account. I hate playing on my main account, just because of like what happens when you're playing on your main account, right? All of us know this. All of us know this by experience. What happens when you're like, you know, a micro celebrity who's playing on their main account,
teabagged every fight.
Then you see the clips in your chat. They're like, "Lol, I got him," and it's just like, bro,
they're typing L to you. They're typing L to you. I'm like, guys, hop in comp. Oh wait, you'll never get in my game. And then
right? So it's just like there's so many of these factors that make it so that like familiar element of like, all right, I'm here, is just like totally stripped away. So I think for the top 100 ladder, that's something the devs should investigate, is like creating this feeling of community.
You know how you bring that back?
Go ahead. Stacking.
You didn't even let me give my rant.
I knew. We've been on how many hours have we spent in calls, Sam? I know what you're thinking. That's another one for the bingo card. Yeah, I mean, that's an option, right? That's a solution. I think that isn't coming back. I know they're really easing the restrictions, so kudos to them. They're really easing the restrictions for stacking in next season. That's something we haven't mentioned. Yeah. But I don't think that applies to GM. Is anyone sure on this one?
I think they applied to Ultimate. Correct?
They alluded to, like, it's not going to be everyone. So I would assume, like, probably the new rank / top 500 is probably going to be, like, you know, maybe GM because it's no longer the top rank, maybe, but we don't actually know anything yet now.
You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it, SVB. I have a take on this. Blizzard. This actually is not a shot at Blizzard, by the way. This is a shot at the pro players who are gonna complain. Pro players and Blizzard, rip off the Band-Aid. You guys want to do big things? Do big things. Rip off the Band-Aid here. Say screw it. You know what? These guys want a 5-stack to top 10. If you pro players are so good that you guys all say you are, right? Then it shouldn't be that hard for you all to get on and beat them. It's rich coming from Overwatch League players. And I've seen my buddies with this take that you guys are so damn scared, little crybabies, about running into a stack. If you're as good as you say you are, you're worried about pros manipulating the ladder, then go beat them. When did you all become so soft? Never in voice chat, scared to get out there and try to win. Freaking, you know what? Step up. If you guys are that scared of stacking, anybody who says that, you're a coward. And I'll spell it out for you. We're probably too dumb to spell it. So you know what? I'm not even going to say it. Bring it back. Rip off the freaking Band-Aid. And if you're so upset about people stacking to go get top of the ladder, to make people want to care about it and want to get out there again, then God damn it, go beat them. Go beat them then if it's that tough. All right? I'm sick of this. These pro players soft. We weren't soft back in my day. You know what we'd do? We'd snipe you at 1 a.m. That's what we used to do. You guys are complacent and you're soft. Get in the game, get in the stack, and try to freaking win. That's all I have to say about that one. Come on, man.
Sam, I don't think
there's nobody in voice chat anymore. Yeah, I wonder why. There's no reason. Oh, no, don't do stacking. That's going to break the ladder. Shut up. What do you want?
Oh.
This is where I agree with Aaron. Come on.
I kind of heard something a little different about the voice thing.
Which thing? I just want to gaslight them. That was all.
People couldn't learn to shut their mouths in ranked games, so they just started telling them to stay out of voice so you don't get in trouble.
Oh, yeah, I believe that too, for sure. Oh, that's 110% true. But you know how you avoid that? At least let it. I'll tell you what, give Hawk, Gator, and Sugar Free the agency to carry a game by themselves in their stack. And that, I hope it diminishes, but you know what? At top 500, it's kind of the nature of competitiveness. And as I think the main thing is just don't let people, there's no reason to be slurring. There's no reason to be doing any of that. And I think art and science, right? I think there's definitely a middle ground there. And I think if you have more people playing on their mains, stacking together, I think that's the big thing that you need to get happen at top 100. That kind of goes away. And it's always the weird EU hit scam players on Adderall anyway. So, you know, am I wrong? I know SVB's seen them. I know.
Bro, that's all I see. That's
the
all I see.
It's really funny. Just a quick side note, how in NA compared to EU, like EU, like people are like nationalist about players. I've never seen anything like it. Where like people are like, the Greeks are like, if there's a French player on my team, I'm throwing.
Bro,
and then
that's
it's like,
Europe. That's all of
crazy.
Europe. It's all of Europe.
I
It's
would
just
queue
like,
over there with my teammates all the time. I'm like, what are you all talking about? Like, play the game. It's like, no, I have Nico. He's the French. Throw the French. It's like a movie. I'm like, what are you all doing?
You guys don't even know. You guys don't even know because like you know you have your problems, but you live relatively harmoniously in the US servers. It's like you're relatively brother. You don't barely even know when it's different. In Europe, it's just like you could be halfway through a game and all of a sudden be like, shut the fuck up, Frenchie. It's like, oh, you fucking Scando, bitch, shut the hell up. I ain't doing shit with you. And it's just like everybody comes in for all kinds of random nationality wars come through in the middle of your game. And you're like, guys, the Palo fucking with C9 right now.
It's just out of nowhere. It's out of nowhere. Like, there's no reason for it. Somebody's just like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, my honor didn't heal me. Fuck it, I'm going nuclear on this lobby, and then they'll start.
Well, they'll draw like the correlation's hilarious. They'll just be like, "My Anna didn't heal me. What the fuck's the problem, you German bitch?" And it's like, bro, why? Like, you don't even know he is German. But then they'll speak up and they'll be like, "Yeah, I don't heal you on purpose." Yeah, it's like, so yeah. Anyways, so in between all of that, Gavin came in and so did Megan to say that the stacking isn't coming in next season. By the way, so the stacking changes are not for. They're not for next season, they're for the season after, I think. Fareeha, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Oh my god, I have the perfect segue for y'all.
Yes, please.
I was just letting you guys get that out.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like you've been holding that back for a long time. Are you okay?
I mean, I just never get to talk about the insularity of EU experiences because we're always talking about NA shit over here. You guys don't even know the kind of cookery that goes on in the fucking EU.
I do though.
Man.
I do. I used to queue you, especially like I was as we imagine a team with me and Awkward on it. That's all I'll say. That was a good time. Queuing EU all the time. But yeah, go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Fareeha.
So, I have the perfect segue into all the ranked discussions because here's the thing. I have a really hot take. I think that the changes they're making, all good. Change is always good. You know, it teaches us stuff, even if it's a failure, even if it comes with caveats that you need to further iterate on. Change is always good. I think that the ranked changes are not going to be enough, at least for me, to even want to touch ranked. There is that shiny golden carrot dangled on a fishing line in front of me, the proverbial golden carrot, and I have this temptation to like, oh, let's go for the new rank, you know, let's grind for this shit. But also, I think that the crux of the issues around Overwatch's ranked system is that it fails to recognize Overwatch as a social game. I think that everybody who stepped away from ranked, everybody who does not talk and communicate in ranked, yeah, you have the side of the pro players who are literally have their mouths caged shut so that they don't get in trouble. But like also, I think that the biggest issue is that people have learned to stop talking because they have learned habitually that it results in shitty things happening. Right? So people just don't try. And like, I can think of so many days where I've gone completely even, you know, 12 and 12, 14 and 14. Overall, not a net gain or a net loss, but the day feels like a goddamn net loss. And I feel like I want to quit. I feel like I want to forsake and just like quit, leave everything that I've gained and learned from this community, this game, because throughout this day of gaming, there was someone who was awful in voice chat. Someone who had an awful day of games, an awful week, an awful month, and is shifting it onto the next person. I feel like Overwatch is a social game, and there aren't enough barriers to curb toxicity, and there aren't enough things that incentivize good behavior. You know, like if there were to be more things tied to your endorsement system, such as a shadow karma system, that the more you talk in games, the more you get other people who talk in games. How sick would that be? Or like if you are someone who regularly drops slurs, You know, you get put with other people who also
How are
do
they
that
not
shit.
banned if they're doing that too? By the way, these people
Yeah,
are
there
doing
aren't. They
whatever.
aren't. I have very cynical takes about why that might be, but
Oh god.
the reason is probably just slipped through the cracks. Honestly, it's like bigger chicken to fry. But I don't know. I think that would be so cool, right? If you have an actively higher endorsement level and you're actively talking, you are rewarded by having more of the experience that you curate for others. And then that could also bleed into systems like guilds, you know, or social systems implemented in the game, like prefer player, or you know, you could think of so many things that allow for that curated competitive experience of running into people you know, running into friends, having that running storyline. I think that could be really great.
Yeah, this always reminds me
Amy,
of
really good
people
point.
always asking for a group find. That's the feature they miss. Like, oh, I remember the group find. Why can't I
But
have
group
find?
find has so many flaws to it, though. It's like you get in a group, you lose one game, and it's like,
Oh
boop,
yeah,
done. Fuck you all.
you win 3 games in a row, everyone's happy. The minute you lose the one game, people just boom bounce. But Flats, you were saying something.
That was actually pretty good. I actually liked a lot of that. But it made me slightly nostalgic of Overwatch 1 the last year. Because like obviously it's the shitter. Like it was the same survivalist people that have just been around. But like a lot of those games, like you saw the same people every day. You knew who they were. Yeah, there was some shitters. Like you just like, oh fuck. But like most of the time, like you're like, oh, I know this person. This person's good, and this person's not that good. But they talk a lot, so that's kind of nice. But now you don't see any of them. You know, like you never. I very rarely bump into someone from Overwatch 1 and they still talk. Like I don't know if they normally talk in their normal games, but if I bump into someone that I recognize from Overwatch 1 and I say something to them, they always respond. But like nobody ever talks in Overwatch 2 games. And it's why I don't play ranked unless I'm at least duoed. And it's like I'm not scared of playing solo queue. I could fucking play if I got into the mindset like, okay, I want to like hard grind and just start like popping off again and just like farming games, I could 100% do it. I'm not in any way like I'm very confident I could, but I'm so fucking bored half the time. Like, sitting there not saying a word, just getting antied on cooldown,
Yeah.
go behind the corner, pop back out, discorded, go back, pop out. Oh, I got headshotted. Got to go back for a sec. Like it's just so fucking boring. It's like you make a good point, but like the social aspect of the game is 100% gone. And I would argue actually on the opposite end of that, that like one, I think that the report system is much better nowadays than it used to be. I still think there's a lot to improve upon. But I also think that, there's a lot of people that just like, they don't talk at all. And it's like, whether because they're afraid that they're going to get reported, even though they're not actually doing anything wrong. Cause like they just read online like, oh, like I got reported for saying yippee. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that yesterday.
I
Like,
saw that.
I still don't, I'm not buying that one. Cause that guy was in my chat and he like showed like his stuff, but like it was so zoomed in on everything, and I was like, why does it look so
Let me see the
unnatural?
big picture. Let me see the big picture. Yeah.
Yeah, so like
The guy probably said, "Kill yourself." Yippee!
Yeah, literally.
yeah,
I'll
so
only
like
pick the second one.
yeah, so like there's a lot of things I guess you could say, and I mean even like the ping system, which was a great addition. People probably don't feel like they have to talk as much because they can just ping stuff, right? And there's also not really as much teamwork needed. Let's be honest. In Overwatch 1, you needed if you played tank, you played a tank duo. Like you didn't really you tried to not play like like Hog Zarya, except for that one meta, right? Like like Hog Zarya was just not really that good, obviously, other than that one meta. So like you kind of had to like kind of figure it out with the other guy, like, hey, what are you playing, right? And so that was a whole other aspect because your tanks would have to figure out what they're going to play, and then your supports would base off what your tanks are playing, right? Like they're like, oh, like, you guys got to figure it out because like we got to figure it off of you. So there was like a little bit of communication that was like kind of forced, but now you can kind of just play whatever. Like supports can play whatever most of the time. Like yeah, there's metas and things that work, but much better. But like the only time I felt recently like I will lose a game unless I have these supports was Maga meta, like with Anakiri, right? Like if I didn't have Anakiri versus Anakiri, like I felt like I was going to lose, right? It was the only time ever I've been like, hey guys, like can we get an Ana or a Kiri here? Like I never asked people for anything in Overwatch 2, but like that was the one time I was like, I need it. And so yeah, like I think you're kind of nailing it. Like there's not really a reason to half the time talk to your teammates, and there's also that reverse aspect of, well, if I make a call out in this game and someone's been having a shitty day and they just fucking take it out on me, it's like, well, okay, dude, like I should have just not said anything at all. So people have like learned their lesson, quote unquote, so they just don't talk, you know? And hell, I talked to Emong about it a lot because Emong obviously like guy's a fucking grinder, and like he's told me, I can't even tell you how many times where he goes an entire day playing 20 games of ranked and not a single person has spoken to him through any of the games. Like not a single person, not once for a whole day. And it's like, that's absurd. But everyone's typing at each other. Everyone types, you know what I mean? Everyone's mad at each other, typing in all chat, but no one says a word. It's very weird. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if it can be fixed, but I think Sam has talked about this in the past. A lot of that social aspect was lost with the stacks being gone and like the way the game has developed over time. And like, you just kind of, we catered so much to solo queue players that's the new meta. So.
Fareeha, you were trying to say something?
Oh yeah. It's like the veil of anonymity. It's this like invisible, meaningless armor that makes people feel like they can speak their mind and simultaneously not put their hand on the chopping block. Right? It's what it is. It's like trying to have their cake and eat it too, of like reaming someone else out, but not putting their own like vulnerability out there.
Yeah, I think as well. It's like it's a layer that stacks on each other, right? Again, if we look from the top down, if we start like let's say top 500 or whatever, right? When everyone's playing on, we've discussed why everyone wants to play on alt accounts, right? Because of the whole campier spot, and you know the queue times. Yeah, so you're already playing on alt accounts, already like that anonymity that Fareeha's talking about comes into factor where you're like people start saying shit. You know, like so Flats was talking about a lot of the pro players, they just couldn't control their mouths, so they were just told to get out of voice chat. But that's accountability was what they're trying to dodge, right? They're trying to dodge like what really they're dodging is like someone being like, you know what you're saying is just bad, you know, like you shouldn't say it. Not the like just be out of voice chat and say it to yourself or to like, you know, to your stream or whatever. Just don't say it. But that accountability is gone. So like that's across the spectrum for everyone. If you're like everyone's on alts, because if the thing is, if you kind of roughly create this environment we were talking about earlier where everyone roughly knows each other, like Flats is getting into the game with Sam and you're both on your mains and there's a third guy there that you know. If that fourth and fifth guy are now dropping horrendous shit, if they're saying awful shit, you guys are going to be like, whoa, dude, like you're fucking out of line. Like what the fuck are you talking about?
I already do.
Right? So that's accountability. That's how you create accountability, both by the account and the ability to report it, but also the ability to be like, I know these other people, so I'm not afraid to talk because I know these guys aren't going to be mean to me. But similarly, I know that these guys are going to create a safer environment for me to speak, right? It's like for people who are often scared to participate in voice and match chat, it's not just that you're afraid that one guy will say something to you, so you're afraid that it's like the environment itself is unsafe, right? That like, I can't be open here because like people will gang up on me, people will like, or no one will defend me and this one guy will go at me. But again, if you're like, no, I know some of these guys, they'll chime in. If something goes on, they'll chime in or they'll be nice to me as well. So you feel safer and it's like an escalation, right? It's like when you feel a little bit safer because you know one guy. Like how many times you get in a game and you're like, oh, I remember this guy from the last game. Hey, guy. And you're like, that guy's like, hey, we had a good game, didn't we? Nice. You create that bond and now you feel comfortable. So you start stripping each of these bonds away and all of a sudden now you've got an environment where everyone's on alt accounts, everyone's scared of everyone else, everyone's not sure what the other person's going to react to. And you're kind of like, the chance that someone is like, you know, anonymously going to start slurring me is like 50-50 at this point. So I'm not even going to bother, right? And again, going back to the streamer mode as well, obviously we experience it as streamers where it's like, you know that like if you have a certain voice, like you speak, people are going to be like, oh, is that guy? So
Every game.
Or if you have a name. Like certain names.
Yeah, exactly. Certain names that they know your account. So it's like all these factors play in to creating a system where players don't feel like comfortable basically to call out because they know that like what's the point. So I feel like you have to start again, and that's start at the top and create a system where like people feel more familiar. And again, the more incentive you have for people to be on their mains, the less they can get away with just like, I'm on an alt account, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna say whatever, I'm gonna talk my shit. So you've got to create that system in that environment. It's not something that's like an easy solution because we're talking like a cultural phenomenon. This isn't just like it's not so easy to just, right. This is the art as Sam's going on to his previous point, right? This isn't just a simple like, if we push this button, the players will all be nice to each other. No, it's like you have to create a culture within your game where people feel like, I think the fundamental experience that a player should have is when they lock into a game, on par, when I talk, will I be received well or received poorly? And it should be that the player's like, I think it's going to be fine. But myself, I don't participate in voice chat most of the time because most of the time I feel like it's going to go badly. Most of the time that I speak, it's going to be received badly. I want you to think about it.
Have you made more friends in Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2? I know it's hard to compare because the lifetimes have been different, but more friends in Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2?
Per time capital, we'll say the first year and a half of the game. We'll say, did you make as many friends in the first year and a half of Overwatch 1 than Overwatch 2? Overwatch 1, without a doubt.
It's not even
by far a landslide for me too.
This would predicate that I have made any friends in Overwatch 2.
Yeah. There have been a couple memes, you know. There's been some I'll see a Junkrat one trick like Sophie on their team, and I'll be like, all right, Sophie, lock in. Right, I'm triple mind tiring this game too. Stuff like that, but I think without a doubt, Overwatch 1, without a doubt.
And
I think I probably played with more people in Overwatch 2, but that's because like quick play and whatnot, where it's like there's less social pressure, where it's like, okay, like especially being like or at least formally being like a super competitive player, like there's almost that social pressure of like, oh, maybe I'm not like good enough to play with them. You know what I mean? And like there's people I play with that are like masters a lot of time, right? And that's okay. Like I have a really good time playing with them. But like if we were playing ranked, like one, we might not even be able to queue. But second, there might be like that pressure of like, oh my god, like I really need to perform here because I'm playing, you know, with so and so, and it's like they're gonna want me to perform really, really well, you know. But Overwatch 2 has been nice because a little bit less press on the gas on that point. But that's obviously really niche.
Go ahead, Fareeha. What was your kind of you leading with this?
What do you guys like to run into? Like, what is your ideal teammate? Because for me, it's someone who's like silly goofy, but also cares enough to try. You know, it's like straddling that line, and the trouble is like, okay, well, if the goal is to get more people talking and to incentivize that with endorsement rewards and also like this hidden queue system. How do you figure out how to lump in the players who don't talk as much or use VC as much? It's like, what if you find a ratio for like how often someone types GG or something nice even after a lost game? It's like there are little sneaky metrics you could maybe look into to kind of clue you into, okay, how do we lump people? And I don't know, it's just like an exploration of these social systems that really don't exist in Overwatch right now aside from avoid a player. Right? It's like the only way that you can really interact with other people right now in this game is either stacking with them, and even that's limited right now, or it's literally saying, I don't want this shitter on my team. And that's it.
Yeah. All true points, all things for the devs to consider, and I think they should consider. Again, I know they've got a lot going on, but this is like top tier importance is making sure your players are feeling happy and comfortable in the lobbies that they're in. Also, I think everyone in Overwatch should type GG like at the end of a game. I always, no matter win or loss, I type GGWP because that's just fucking etiquette, guys. Gamer etiquette. This is the boomer SVB coming out. Gamer etiquette. You type GG after the end of the game, no matter what, unless some guy was slurring in chat, and then you're like, fuck that guy, or sorry for your lever. But you type GG, guys.
I only type GG if I win.
Yeah, exactly. GG if you win.
Dude, I'll tell you what, Kefri was a machine with his GRs in chat. I've never seen anything like it. Still a meme to this day. Get the GR after the round. Or did you okay, guys, this is crazy. Did you guys know? You know how all the Mercy players type like GG heart and it's like an emote heart? If you press Alt 3 on your numpad, that's how you do it. I did not know that for 10 years. Did y'all like am I the crazy one?
I got taught
No,
it, yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
shit,
okay, so it's not just me. Thank God.
No.
I've been getting
I refuse
gaslit
to use
for
it, though.
weeks. I've used it a couple times.
I still think less than 3 is just better.
Less than 3.
Oh, I'm
especially
so
when the
gonna
TTS.
take. Oh, this is great. Thank you for that, Flats. You've given me some Flats. You gave me I had another epiphany earlier, and you're gonna figure out what it was about my tank video off something that you said. But also, I'm gonna look the camera in the eye and say that the bracket 3 is better than the heart, and you can be mad about it if you want to. I'm on board with that one. I'm on board with that one.
I just tried it and it didn't work and it gave me the Windows error message. So everyone listening to this podcast right now will have heard the like boom like of the Windows. So like I apologize if you're listening to this later in the future. That was me. That wasn't you. There's nothing going wrong with your Windows. You're all good. That was
Flats.
me.
We got him.
Yeah,
That was a better outcome. Than I
Imagine if
expected
you were
right
like
there.
Alt. If you try
Immediate
Alt
value.
F4 SVB, it'll be your
You should
heart will
delete
come
System
out.
32 SVB. It would go under wonderfully.
Okay.
Don't actually do that. Don't actually do that, people. Never delete.
No,
System
don't,
32.
guys. Chill. No Alt F4s, please. Stay locked in. Any other thoughts on this idea of like social changes or systemic changes that you guys feel are important that you want to bring up? Fareeha?
I was just thinking how cute it would be if you could like assign a tag on a player. Like after you like you buy something on Uber Eats, and there's like things you could write like, oh yeah, tasty, or like good portion, good packaging. Imagine if you could do that for the people you run into in your game, right? Like not necessarily an endorsement system, but like
Yeah, this is not gonna go well. This is not gonna go well. Knob. No, every British person knob ed. Just like right in there.
I dread to see what Unsalted Salt's game would look like.
I think he would wear it like a badge of honor, dude.
Exactly.
He would wear
exactly,
it like a badge.
He would.
Like it's like back in the this is really dating myself now, but back in like the old days of social media, you could like put like your top 5 friends or something on like your Facebook.
Yeah.
It'd be like top 5 comments, and Unsalted Salts would all just be like cunt, just like all in right at the top. He just like put it right there. He'd be like absolute raging dickhead. All right on hog though, or something like that. He'd just be like right up there.
Oh god.
I mean, that kind of
that'd be
exists.
amazing. That'd be amazing though. Right?
Salt and Decky would be rank 1 for sure, without a doubt. In my mind, that'd be priceless. Honestly, I'm about it. Let's do it. I'm about it.
You block people, it technically is like the same thing. I don't know if you've ever gotten into a game. It's like, wait, why do I have this guy blocked? That's not good. That's not a good sign. That's like my personal tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yes. Seriously. Yes. It's always
it's like a message you can leave for future players. Like I'm very Elden Ring pilled right now, so it's like
that's what I was thinking of, like a choice between words, and then you could just see what the community does with them. It could be hilarious.
It's just like if someone's just like pray to God as like their notes to the other guy, you're like, oh God, this is not going to be good. This can't be good. Okay.
This is never happening.
Yeah, this sounds like a great bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, another final thing that was kind of dropped in the nugget that Aaron talked about was a mini map, or like that's something they've spoken about having. I don't realistically see them adding that, but mini map in Overwatch, anyone? No, all shaking heads.
We don't need more clutter on the screen. We have enough on our HUD.
Yeah. Hell, I keep it at health bars, I think, and the maps aren't big enough to need it.
That's exactly it. They're easy to learn. It's not like Apex where I'm like, where the fuck am I?
Yeah.
You really don't.
Where's the circle coming to get me, right?
Or like, can you imagine the Valorant footstep circle of just like an Overwatch where it's just be like all the time? It's like, there's people all around me.
Yeah. And the function of a map in those games is like actually really, really vital, because it's key to your planning and your game sense of like, okay, where am I right now? Where do I need to go? Where might fights occur? Where am I likely to run into people? Because you know where all the hotspots are. In Overwatch, there's not really that. Everybody spawns from set points. The objective is there, and there's like guidelines to get there. So it's like, I don't see the point.
Well, here's a question then. Is there a system that you think should be implemented into Overwatch? Like, is there a system that you've seen in other games or just have thought about yourself that you're like, I think Overwatch should implement a system like this? Like, off the top of my head, this isn't like a big system, but like a voice chat slider for volume. I think that's been asked about a lot, and very, very like straightforwardly would make everyone's life easier so that the guy with like the...
I talk about this like 5 times a day.
So you can individually, like Discord, how you can individually change like a user, or what do you mean by that exactly? Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like you can just like
you can do
slide
it as a net, but you can't. Yeah.
So it's like one guy is too loud, you just turn him down, or one guy's too quiet, you turn him up a little bit.
Guy has the gain up too high on his audio interface.
Yeah,
right?
literally.
Real-time mutes. So someone says like a slur in your game, like why is it? Why even allow it to keep going? Like
what would the latency be on that? Is the question. Because some of these, so for example, something like, well, I can't say this on stream. I'll tell you after, because this involves a conversation I can't say about on stream because I'll tell you later. But yeah, I can't. Sorry.
Okay.
GG.
NDA,
Damn.
NDA. No, yeah, I agree. I think as well. I think they give you the report. Your report has been actioned. I would like to see more detail. I think they've said somewhere that they don't want to give more detail on like how when you report someone where it went. But like in Dota 2, for example, you can see exactly what happened. So it'll give you like if your report is successful, it'll be like, oh, on the 14th of this month, you reported a guy in this game, and action like you reported them for this, and action was taken. Because so often when I get that like message when I log in, it's like your report is action. I'm like, so which of 10 guys was that I reported the other day? Like, you know, like who was that? What was it for? So I would quite like to see, and especially if, as you're talking about flats, if it's like a real time mute, which maybe the devs will say we've done this actually, you just don't realize because the guy shuts up. But I would like to see a message pop up in chat that says this person has been muted because they were a piece of shit.
Valorant does that. Valorant does real time. Like if you type a slur in chat and you report them, like boom, like they're not saying a word for the rest of the game, like in the match.
Okay, Gavin says we don't have real time muting, so there we go. That kind of answers that. It would be good. I don't know at all what the technical demands of it are, but I really would encourage something like that to exist. Is there any other systems that you can think of that like you'd be like, oh, it doesn't have to be necessarily in this area. Like, again, it could be like something to do like a mini map or streamer mode.
This
We're
is
going, like,
We already have streamer mode.
Nah, don't give me that streamer protection nonsense. I don't need protection from myself. I am very good at protecting myself from myself. Okay, like hide my name from myself. Oh my god, I don't want to see who. Oh, fuck. Like yeah, like okay, dude, like that's fucking useless.
So funny.
If you're talking big picture, like how much further
Yeah,
outside of this?
Go nuts.
I kind of, I've been thinking about this kind of recently because we kind of did it first, but we kind of left it alone. I don't know how much you know about like Fortnite and what they've been doing with their whole, their like the way they work with like creators and stuff. And it's not just creators, like creator codes and whatnot, but they also do stuff for their workshop. So like if you create game modes in Fortnite, like you get paid. Like if people play them a lot, right? Like so, where I'm going with this is like people will make workshop game modes in Fortnite and people play them because they're super fun. And there's like so the way it works is 40% of skin revenue, like for how much the game makes of the shop, 40% of that of the whole thing is put aside into the creator fund. And then that is split up into percentages. So like let's say you make a game mode and 0.1% of all players play your game mode, right? You would get 0.1% of the revenue of that 40%. So you could get paid a lot. And so people are basically making full-time jobs out of making game modes in Fortnite. And so what has happened is they now have like a whole creators or a whole like under like not like some like I'm not talking about like streamer creators. I'm talking about like workshop creators that are just making fun game modes for the game. And so it's almost like bringing itself life, where it's like if you get bored of doing like battle royale or no build or whatever, there's all these fun either goofy or competitive or what other game modes. Like someone made, for example, like Only Up, right? Like you remember like Only Up that came out? Someone made Only Up in Fortnite, right? So you could play Only Up in Fortnite's engine in the game. And so it's basically encouraged people to make more workshop game modes. And I think Overwatch is like an example of like we were like one of the first to have like the workshop, you know what I mean? Like we kind of didn't go much further than where it's at. I know it's like a lot to build and whatnot, but like it does, like I just, you know, like I at some point after hearing the same answer of like, oh, it's a lot of work or there's a lot of technical limitations or whatever, like it just like at some point you just kind of like get tired of getting hit with the same answer, and it's like I know you're right, but like can we fix the problem then? You know
what, Flats? I'm gonna throw
up?
you a bone. Finish your point, I'll throw you a bone.
Okay, so like, I mean, like we've talked about this in the past, right? With like the Microsoft acquisition or whatnot. It's like Overwatch seems to be one of the games that's at their forethought, like what they want to make, you know, part of their brand with Xbox, and hopefully they get more resources to do that, because God only knows that Overwatch is a game that if it wants to compete with all the other AAA title FPS games, in which I know Jared said they don't feel like they compete. I highly disagree. You 100% compete with at least the AAA title FPS games. especially the free-to-play ones, because they're all on seasonal models. So if you have to figure out who's going to get what attention, the only way they're going to do that is if they kind of keep stepping their game up little by little. And I think we've done great in the last year with like, having little goofy game modes and like fun things, but like the core gameplay is kind of collapsing a little bit. While games like, I would say Apex, for example, where its core gameplay feels really good, but it's been failing in all the other departments. Like its collab was it was a lot of fun, but like a big disaster. Like the skin prices, they haven't been having a lot of fun game modes other than that one game mode they had a couple months ago, which was like you could respawn like 3 times or whatever. That was apparently fun. But other than that, like they've got like no new guns. They're barely getting any new characters. So like, everything outside of the core gameplay isn't that good, but their core gameplay is still holding on pretty well. Like Overwatch, if it wants to really keep pushing forward, it needs more help. And so like when we always ask for these things, I feel like we always get the same answer of like, oh, like priority, so much work, blah, 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 blah. But if that's the problem, how do you fix that problem, right? And so, yeah, you can go, Sam.
You're completely right. And usually I wouldn't talk about this publicly, but fuck it. You know what's great
You're
about
in trouble?
No, that's my company. I can do what the hell I want.
Okay.
Based.
You know what would be pretty cool? And one of the big reasons that I know a lot of people don't know what Mindplex is, but the big reason the company that I bought that was ironically where I started had that kind of relationship with Minecraft when we first started. And I think a big reason Minecraft multiplayer has fallen off is because Fortnite and Roblox took that model to a T and applied it to their game. And I think if Overwatch had done that with the original workshop, we'd see so much content. So the big reason that why Overwatch can't do it is because they don't have the technology built. Because you know what that would require? A crazy like payment system to pay people and all that stuff, hosting all that stuff. You know what's pretty cool about Mindplex now, Flats? That's our entire business model. I already have the payment system built. So here's what open letter to Blizzard. You guys ever want to support creative and creators in this scene? I'm good friends with all these people. Shoot me a message. I will not charge you. We will take a rev split on whatever it is that you want. The payment system is already built. Obviously, we'd have to do our own uplift. We'll do the uplift for you. This is our entire business model on Mindplex. We're going to go around. I don't want it to be only in Minecraft. That's what Mindplex technology stands for. We've already built all of this infrastructure, handle the hosting, do all this stuff. So if you guys are serious about wanting to expand the workshop and letting even Overwatch developers and creators have some kind of way to monetize and build games at very little cost to you guys, in which case you want to deal with overhead and hosting, we'll do it for you. That's our whole business model. And I wish I could talk to you guys about how our meetings with Epic Games went and how our meetings with good meetings, damn it. But in the long term, that is our goal, because our goal is to make sure that I think the next big wave in gaming, you saw it first in 2018 with the streamer wars, if you will, where you saw like the big investors get a hold. I think it was a Goldman Sachs interview where there was a big report to Wall Street, and then that's where you saw everyone go to streaming because it's all the era of the streamers. It's all this stuff, all this blah 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 blah, whatever it may be, right? Then you saw Mixer kind of fail, and then it went to buying game studios, stuff like that. The next big innovation and the big kind of war, if you will, the arms race, is going to be between these big titles and third-party developers who take a core game. And the question is, which company is going to let their community build things that a smaller dev team is impossible to do? It's impossible to keep up with the volume that Roblox and Fortnite has, and Overwatch is one of the best game engines of the ball. If you guys are serious about wanting to explore this, the payment system's already built. It's done. Our door's open. I want to see this game succeed, and I'd be willing to do that. And I'll tell you what, you probably be a lot cheaper. We handle the hosting and everything. So, it is what it is. I'm not sure how that will work from a technical standpoint, but I'll leak it. I don't care. That's our business model, and it's going to work. And I know it's going to work because of guys like you, Flats, and people like, was it Darwin from Ireland?
Darwin,
yeah. Would make all this awesome stuff that would have taken this game
and
to
DGMB as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many of these talented people out there. And do you know how many people signed up to publish games on our pre-alpha on Mindplex? There were over 50 game submissions, right? Just from before we're even ready to launch the alpha. Think about Zombie Car and Overwatch, all this stuff. If they're serious about it and they don't have the time to do the uplift at anybody at Activision or I really wish I could say what I want to say. I can't. But here's what I will say. And it's not because of a Blizzard thing. It's because of stuff I can't talk about on the other side yet. SVB, I'll talk to you in Flats about a little bit. But Epic has done such an awesome job with their creator stuff. Each meeting we've had with them, they've been awesome. They're adding more technology day in, day out. You saw this with Lego Fortnite, with the first time you've seen long form saves come to Fortnite. Epic Games will be the big winner in the long run because right now they're the best set up to succeed. If Overwatch wants that, I'd be happy to help any way I can. Obviously, that's just a shot in the dark, but whatever. Screw it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. We're not. I wish I could say everything I want to say, but I can't. It's frustrating. Soon TM is what I'll say. But you know why I can't SVB. So
I love it. I love it. I love it on every front. I love that you trying to be here the savior of Overwatch. I love that element. I love the growth and the maturity, the Samito arc. We've been on these calls for so long, and we've kind of seen each other over the years. So I love seeing you kind of business mode, boss man,
It is
Sam.
so cool to see how
and you're kind of,
Seriously.
coming through with this.
I don't
love
sleep anymore. But it's a necessary. Listen, at what point are you going to stop making excuses and sit down and do it? Right. So that's where we're at right now. I think let's come back to this conversation come this summer when I can talk a lot more, and then we can talk. But it's going to take a little bit.
No, I love it, and I hope it works out. This is way beyond my ken. So if the devs, I'm sure that the devs are in this. They listen to this call, so I hope they listen, and I hope that for whatever relevant it is, it comes through. While Sam's adding, I'm gonna drop a quick ad of my own. Guys, help me get Partner Plus on Twitch. I need 350 sub points. Tier 1, Tier 2s, and Tier 3s are appreciated. Primes and gifteds don't count. I already succeeded in December. We just need January and February, but I haven't streamed for 2 weeks, so you guys need to come through. Please help. If you're listening now or in the future, Twitch, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. All right. Fareeha, I think you were trying to say something. But
you got anything to plug? Yeah.
You got anything to plug? Flats, you got anything to plug?
No, I was asking for anything to plug.
Oh, I just launched some custom merch pre-orders for an enamel pin. Yeah. We need 30 to go into production. We have 7.
Let's go. Drop the link. Drop the link.
I also make terrible tier lists that will burn the eyes of anybody who values.
I've seen
they have
tier list.
traumatized
Don't
me.
worry about it. It can't be worse.
Nah, ain't no way.
It's just the Dunkin' Donuts up the Northeast goes a little too crazy in their brains, apparently.
You got anything to plug, Flats?
No, this is my second day streaming, almost a week and a half. I got nothing right now. I got nothing cooking.
That's why I needed a plug, man. I haven't streamed for I had internet issues for 2 days, and I didn't stream for the first 2 weeks of January. So my time is on the fucking. I need these coming through before the end of the month. Anyways,
I had no internet for 8 days. I found the bottom of the TikTok For You page. You know what exists?
Oh no,
I didn't know it existed. I had to wait 20 minutes for it to refresh.
The bottom of you bet.
I hit the bottom. I ran out of videos. I went to the.
There's a bottom.
It so when you scroll up, it's just a black box, and it just doesn't let you. So I closed out of the app. I closed out of the app. I went back in. Still nothing. It was just the same video.
You found the end.
This is
I found the end. It exists.
This is like Subnautica, Flats. I know you played it and I played it recently. It's just when you go off the edge and you just slowly, you're like, will it ever end? And it's no, it's never. But you found the bottom.
Did you ever do that, by the way?
I got so tilted because I ran in a prawn suit and I walked and I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to a lower area. And I walked off and I suddenly I just kept falling and falling and falling. And then I get to I got to 500 meters or something. And I'm like, guys, I don't think there's a bottom here. And it's dark as shit. And I'm like, if I get out now, I'm not making it back to the surface. So my prawn suit is going 3,000 meters deep. I'm watching ghost leviathans fly by. And I was like, chat, I'm just fucking dead, aren't I? And I just made this fucking prawn suit and it's gone. I was molding, dude. I was molding.
I only did it at the end of the game, and my chat was trying to they're like, oh, you missed this thing. You never did it. And so I took the seam off, and I just didn't let go of the gas pedal, and they couldn't catch me. So I heard everything behind me. I'm like, chat, there's nothing out here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. They turn around. I go, nope. I just went for 20 minutes in a straight line.
That's great. My prawn suit didn't have that kind of power. Just 30 seconds of beautiful death as I accepted it. And then, yeah. Okay. Free, I was going to say, before the plugging, I feel like you had something you wanted to mention about systems.
Oh. Nothing particular to say, just that everything Samito was saying about Roblox and Fortnite is kind of on the vein of what I was going to talk to you about in our next episode.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
this is another plug, but Free and I are gonna do a podcast, and she's gonna
There it
explain.
is.
She's gonna
There
explain
it
one of the episodes we're gonna do. She's gonna explain Minecraft to me because I've only played it like one time, so she's got
But
some cool.
but specifically like the staying power of Minecraft and other games like it. Yeah.
There you go. So if you ever want to learn about that, keep an eye out for
Hell yeah.
Fareeha's work. Okay, let's move back then to discussing Overwatch. We've kind of gone. This is maybe speaks to Flats' point about we talk a lot about not Overwatch things these days, but we know that season 9 is coming. I don't think there's much else coming season 8. We've got some more Hero Masteries or whatever, which we usually have the same kind of feelings. I think about Hero Masteries, like, oh, it's cool for the people who love it. SK was in chat. I love SK, so I'm sure she will be hard grinding and getting awesome top scores on it. So best of luck to her and the other people who do it. But big changes coming really in season 9. So what are the changes you most want to see? And what are the, what's the emphases that you want? Because Sam, for example, I can anticipate will probably say something along the lines of like, before you drop these big changes, put them into a quick play hacked or whatever. So on that vein, what is it that you want to see in their big vision? Maybe we can influence them before they drop it somehow magically. Before they change it, what would you tell them? Sam, you go first.
Well, you already nailed it for me, to be honest. I just, I think that Team 4 would benefit greatly for every once in a while, like instead of just constantly trucking forward, like take a step back in terms of not just hero balance, because Flats is right. The hero balance, you've seen that happen for, but net big changes overall. I think a willingness to show more flexibility to try things like quick play hacked and experiment with these things. And if people are getting mad that you're trying these things, I do think you could probably limit the time to maybe one day or like a couple hours or something, like just enough to where you feel like you're getting comfortable with the data. Don't be afraid to do that. And the one thing that I would advise them on is, look, I know internally at Blizzard is probably here's my fear, and I can't really say that this is true. Don't just hold on to some of these features because they were the staple branding of Overwatch 2, right? Don't feel that way. I'm not saying they do, to be clear. I can't speak to another person's subjective feelings or viewpoints. I have no insight on that. Before somebody tries to make Samito, blah, 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 like do all this stuff, and then they're trying to say, this is what the dev's doing, that we won't go back to 6v6. I know some of you are going to do that. Don't do that. That's not intellectually honest. Don't do that. Just don't learn what a sunk cost is, right? Not everything's going to be a hit. And I think there were a lot of things in Overwatch that were sunk costs that we just trying to fit this round peg into or a square into a round peg. You know that saying? Sometimes it won't work, and like that's fine when it doesn't, but like walk it back. Like I would love to try Overwatch 2 without the role passives. I would love to see if that helps make tank play a lot better, just for a thought experiment, because I love thinking about this kind of stuff. So don't force yourself into a corner. You guys have a lot of flexibility, and I think if you stand on business and stand there and say, listen, we're going to be flexible here, we're going to try this, we're going to try this, we're going to try this for these reasons, a lot of people will be okay with that. And honestly, if people are sitting there like, this play's terrible, these devs suck for trying this stuff, who cares what they say anyway? They don't bring anything to the table. Tell them to buzz off, right? Be like a bee. Bzz, bye, right? But no, that's all I'd really say. I just don't lock yourselves into corners. Like be willing to experiment. I think keep doing that kind of stuff and shoot for the moon, as they say.
I like that a lot. Just sensible Samito today. Sensible Samito is the way. If you kind of, by the way, for free and Flats, I go to you next. Another potential session is that what would you like to see in the next quick play hacked as well? Because I know that they're doing another one soon, so that's another avenue you could take it to. I'll take it to Fareeha next. Fareeha, like, yeah, any of those thoughts. Next season, quick play hacked. What's your message here to the devs? Yeah.
All right. I want to see Hanzo and Cassidy make out on my main screen. No. but if that can't happen, I suppose. Yes, actually, I was going to mention that. You read my freaking mind. Okay. So I always say this. I will keep saying this. I feel like Overwatch is such, oh my god, the community freaking loves this game's characters, its stories, the world, and it's just kudos to the amazing world building and the writing that the team has done. I see a resurgence. I don't know if it's just me and my timeline. I see a resurgence of fan artists. They're coming out from from their dark recesses. Yeah, are you seeing it too?
Dark recesses. I have seen them. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And people are like getting back on this train, and it's like, we need to encourage this because there is so much room for more Overwatch media out there. People are interested in it. People want this. Maybe some people have forgotten that they want this, but it's like that's why we got to remind them. Like these characters are so easy to fall in love with. From the moment you sit down and you play them, you get the sensation and the impression of like the kind of person they are just from the way that they control, the way that their animations move, the way that they speak. The way that their kits are designed. It conveys so much, and it's no accident that the world has fallen like madly in love. So it's like, remind them why. And so things like Overwatch, more comics, like I know shorts are so expensive to produce. I know it's another team that makes them, and it doesn't have to be, an animated series. Of course, that would be freaking amazing if we could get something like Arcane. I understand the barriers to getting something like that funded, insanity, but if any other franchise would succeed doing so, it's not Apex, it's not Valorant, it is not Fortnite, it is Overwatch that would succeed with character-driven stories in any form of media. So I don't know. That's where it bleeds over into the more business side of game development and these sorts of cultures, because that's where the art ends, and all of a sudden there's the constraint of finances, and that's where I'm clueless. So that's the part where I'm sure is the gate.
Yeah, we're all just the Oliver Twist, humbly requesting for more, and then the person dishing out the meal can decide how much is left and how much resource they have to allocate. So just the humble
Spare
request.
Lore, please.
Exactly.
Spare lore, ma'am.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely I see it. I see the increase. I see a lot of increase in lore interest. I think in Overwatch 2. There's a lot more people interested again, because there was a huge burst, I think, at the start of Overwatch 1. And because I guess that appetite wasn't fed for a while, people fell away on it. But now I think in Overwatch 2, I've seen a lot more people shipping a lot more heroes, which is just like an indicator of...
It's wild that that's an indicator, but it really is, right? It's like, it's interest in the overall franchise and the world that they're all in. And, what was I going to say? The train has left the station. Were we talking about just like 5 seconds earlier? Oh, right.
The allocation of resources.
It's due to things like Overwatch Declassified. These books coming out. It's credit to the writers and the work they've put into the voice lines and the interactions we've seen. Get more. I love it. More, please. You're doing great.
Flats, how about you? What would you like to see coming up?
I kind of already said a lot of things that I want to see. I'm gonna take a moment here and derail the fuck out of you, because I already said, I think I got all mine right, like streamer mode, all that stuff. Although I do have my one for quick play hacked. I'll say my quick play hacked one really quick. Let's do the 6v6 one. Let's do it. Let's fucking do it. Let's just see what happens. I'm in. Like, it's gonna be chaos. It's gonna be a shit show. But that would be fun. Just because I know what would happen. And I love the chaos. But you know what's funny through all of this? You know what? Something we never mentioned? PV. We never mentioned PV missions.
I think people have moved on too, I think, as well. Which
we're supposed to be getting more at some point, right? Like, you know what? Like, maybe this is a bit of a hot take. The next PV should be free.
Not a hot take at all. That was
like, it genuinely.
It would reopen the bridge, I think.
Yeah, you reopen the bridge, exactly. Like, I actually don't think that they probably made enough money off of that to recoup how much dev time they probably spent on it. Just all in. Just fuck it. Just let people play it. Have fun. Probably do it one dish for your brand image and actually bring people into, like, giving it a shot. Because most people, I'll tell you what they did? If they actually were really that interested, they probably watched a streamer play it one time, or they watched a video on, like, the cutscenes. That was it.
Oh my god, wait, is this the first group up podcast since CEO got the boot. I think.
Oh
it is,
yeah,
huh?
goodbye Bobby. Yes, it is. We
Goodbye,
talked about
Bobby.
him leaving, but he's gone
He
now.
only ruined 2 games so he could get a paycheck before he left.
Fuck.
Warzone, man.
I
I'm still
can't-
mad about it.
Didn't they fall apart this weekend or something? Or this week?
Yeah, dude, don't even get me started. Don't even get me. It was the game. It was. Never mind.
It was literally unplayable. Like no, like the game like actually didn't work or
It
something.
was literally unplayable. And a big shout out to Raven Software, who are like almost like a third party developer team that they have to like balance the game and remake the game. Raven just has been awesome over the years. Like they're really sharp. They're on the money. They're super articulate in their gun patch notes. Like shout out to Raven, man. They're great.
Fareeha, you wanted to celebrate the loss of Bobby?
It goes back to that topic of like finances and this sort of the world of business acumen being the gate that holds creativity back from flowing to its full potential. It's not necessarily a dam. It's just kind of a wall that gets imposed there because like money is the underpinning that funds all creative disciplines, right? And it's like I cannot imagine how much work was just lost to the darkness because of the meddling, and it makes me sad to think about. But I think it's important to remember that this is something that happens in gaming, it happens in film, it happens in TV, in all creative disciplines. Of just shit gets made and gets thrown into the trash and set on fire for monetary reasons and management issues. And it's
you know the worst part about that though is Overwatch is a pretty good example of sacrificing long-term gains for short-term profits, because you have to make your books look good for every shareholder call. And so like every time like something big comes out, there's no we're not going to sit here and pretend that certain big things come out at certain times for no reason. Like they do that on purpose, right? Like most companies do that because they want to look good rolling into their next shareholders call, especially end of year, whatnot. But like, I remember talking with people like forever ago, before I even knew anything about PvE, and like, talking about like, is it paid? Is it free? Could they put it in a battle pass somehow? Whatever. Like this was like forever ago, and I remember way back then just being like, well, if you just put it like you already monetize like everything else about like the skins and whatnot, like the cosmetics, like why wouldn't you just want the content to be free? And it was like, well, we spent all this time making it, so we had to make some money back somewhere. And it's like, yeah, but you're already making money hand over fist by doing what you're currently doing. And I think that you guys are already having skins the prices they are. People hate it, but like there's a reason why they are what they are. You make a ton of money off it, and like as a business, that's a good idea. But by like pigeonholing yourself, and this is something I've always done, was I never put any content behind a paywall ever. Like, yeah, you might get hit with ads, but like that's just the nature of it. But like if you really want to, you can go back and watch it later, and you're not screwed out of anything. And like I've been approached by things like Patreon. YouTube came to me one time because like YouTube was like members only content. If you know anything about that. Sam, you might know, like, basically, like, unless you're a member, which is like a paid sub, like on Twitch, you don't get access to watching it or certain perks. And they didn't understand my answer. Just like, no, like, I personally don't believe that. And so like the whole thing about PvE, did it end up being like that good? Not really. But like, what if it was free the entire time? And I feel like what you're talking about, like the more of the lore and people into the characters, you probably would have had a giant giant resurgence around that time because there was so many cool little cutscenes in it, right? Like there was so many cool little cutscenes,
so cool,
and like there was such a sour taste around it already that all of that got washed out. And I refuse to believe that they made enough money to actually justify all of the time that they spent on PvE. Dude, just take the loss. Like literally, just take it as a loss. It's a marketing loss. Like it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing with like our esport. The reason why our esport fell apart is because our esport was different than say Valorant or League of Legends. Riot does really, really well, where their whole esport is a marketing cost. Like they lose money on esports every year because it's a marketing cost for their game. While Overwatch League was trying to be profitable by giving players like small contracts, fucking sticking them all in a house, players paying each other to play on the like the whole Valiant, whatever the fuck situation happened over there. I remember working in Overwatch. Like, I saw some absolute fuckery. Like, everyone was trying to everyone's trying to like milk the fucking, like the esports. Like, oh my god, like esports gonna make so much money, and everyone's fucking pulling on every fucking every lever they can trying to make money out of it. And look what you got at the end. You got nothing. You killed the whole thing. So, I feel like there's things we can look at and be like, don't make those mistakes. Stop making those mistakes. And you're right. There's probably so many things that we've lost out on because it either doesn't make enough money or it won't make enough money. And so we just don't get it.
Yeah. Fareeha, do you want to add anything to that?
There's a little analogy I want to use when I try to think back on how people were talking around the PvE stuff. It's like people were understandably upset, and this is not me saying that you are not allowed to be upset, but imagine this. Imagine someone is a baker, and they've loved baking and just making delicious treats for as long as they remember. And they find a job that lets them do this, a stipend to buy whatever ingredients they need, and complete creative freedom to just dream up whatever they can manage. And the thing is, the person who sets the prices of the cupcakes, of the cakes, of the pastries they end up making is not the baker. But somehow, when we talk about game devs, people conflate the two, and they're like, oh yeah, the baker is the one selling the prices. It's like, no, the baker wants as many people as possible to taste their treats. Like, they're in it to make wonderful things and for people to experience wonderful things. And somehow that gets so lost in these discussions of like, no, the evil is capitalism, it's the devs aren't the reason you're paying out the wazoo for like a legendary Mercy skin.
Yeah.
It's all shareholders.
Which, by the way, I'm very curious how that's going to change with Microsoft. I'm unsure yet because they're so massive, right? I'm curious because I think they're going to try to make their big money. This is pure conjecture off of like their exclusive titles. I'm curious if they ease off of the multiplayer space in particular, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's still so much up in the air on the Microsoft front, so we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think there's really, even with any immediacy, we're going to start seeing the effects. Like, technically, Season 9, will that be the first Microsoft season? But I don't see that being any different. Like, maybe Season 11, 12, we're going to start seeing some influences. I think
it'll ripple slowly.
Right.
Take a long time.
Yeah, they've already will have planned so much that it's not really relevant unless Microsoft come in and we're like dramatically like, axe this, change that right now. I don't think there would be any influence until, probably like end of this year. Maybe we'll start to see some things that Microsoft wanted get put in, or maybe, bigger features, like, so the Game Pass, the Xbox thing, like maybe there we'll start to see like Overwatch things pop up more, like you get free Overwatch stuff if you're in the Game Pass or whatever. So let's see.
There's another pipe that just burst.
Yeah, something,
you heard that, right? That was
going
loud.
Yeah, that was
that? I don't know what that was.
That might have been Fareeha, might be right.
Sniper maybe trying to take flats out. It's like he's told too much. He's told us too much.
She's shooting from Havana. Havana third.
With fall off damage, save flats for once. Yeah, I mean, so to my things that I want to see, I'm with flats in the sense that like I want to see some chaos emerge. It's always something fun to talk about rather than talk about boring stale stuff. It's more fun to talk about like, oh, well, they tried 66 and it sparks more debate, but I'm going to take it one step further, which is that I'd love, it can't be in the next free play hack, but presumably in the coming seasons or season, I want to see some creator patches, but I want to see like, give Samito and Hawk the chance to make like a 6v6 patch and like let them cook on a quick play hacked. And then next week, you can have like some real 5v5 defenders be like, no, here's our real 5v5 patch. Like, well, fuck what the devs are doing. This is our 5v5 patch. So we can recreate.
You guys can just say you want 6v6 back too, by the way. You can just
I
say
just want to see
point.
it. I just want to see
like,
it.
listen, I told you, I'll fall on the sword for you guys, but I know you all want to try.
No, I just want to see the chaos, bro.
I get it. It would be chaos. I get it. I'm with you all, but
I'm
you guys,
I'm the guy.
You guys act like Hawk hasn't already probably written the patch. Like,
I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has.
It's been really fun, SVB, and this is where I want to give credit to your show and who you bring on, the people you brought on. You've done a freaking awesome job over the last 3 years. I feel like Uncle Frito because I'm watching Hawk like kind of transcend. Like he's been like making videos all week, like sending them to me, and like I'm teaching. I told him, I said, listen, go talk in front of the mirror for an hour every day. You want to like it helps. It really does. Like I've done it for 10 years. I've literally sat and talked to myself, and then I'm weird, I know, but I just have to. I struggled so much with like because I was so ADHD all the time that I couldn't get thoughts out, and that helps so much. And I think you've done a great job as a host to make sure that you've got a lot of talent on here and make sure like, a lot of people have learned a lot from being on this show. So for all the years, man, what is this, year 5 of Group Up? When was our first one?
2020, I think.
Time is a blur.
Right?
Yeah, time's a blur. It's been fun. I've enjoyed every moment though. It's been a good time.
I lose track of what one was. Like Overwatch is like a big blur to me. I'm just like some years ago, stuff was happening, and like all I remember is like a little bit of Overwatch 2. But yeah, I would love to see like I think me and Flats are like the spectators in the play and the stage. We're just watching shit go down, and we're just like applauding as like a new character comes in and stabs the first guy. We're like, oh shit, I didn't even see that coming.
Where's your popcorn? You guys have to have popcorn if you're gonna.
Yeah, we next time Flats and I would just bring a little bag of popcorn and pull it up when shit goes down. But I want to see these ideas explored. I think. I never like unproductive things. I think like just arbitrarily people being like, oh, 6v6 was better. It's like unproductive. What I'd love to see is like this exploration meaningfully of the idea, right? So that's why I want to see like, because I've seen like what you and Hawk, like after that debate, I see it so much now. People share that clip. It's funny because like someone sent me Score Esports this video recently on like the death of esports.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, and
I watched it. It was
I haven't seen it, but they interviewed me for it ages ago, and it just finally came through. But also, I noticed they used a clip from the 6v6 debate. They had like Hawk talking about the 6v6 stuff, and I was just like, I've seen like the impact that call had on like people suddenly were like bringing the movement back, and I just want to see it explored productively. I want to see you guys get your chance to kind of express your vision, because it's kind of like you're giving this theory. You're like scientists who are like, we think that there's like a thing that could happen here, but you need the means to test it, right?
That's the fun of the science. That's the fun of the art and the science. I don't know art, right? But I do know science, except for in high school. Sorry, Miss O'Neill. But well, I could go down a little list of professors. Jeez Louise. But no, that's the fun of it all, right? And I think that's what made Overwatch so special. Like Overwatch, in my opinion, was the most, without a doubt, and still is the most creative shooter game ever made. And I don't think anything's ever going to touch that. Ever. And to Fareeha's point about agency, I'm so using that. I'm going to use that in my thing. I'm the agency all day. I love it.
Well,
agency is the underpinning of our society right now.
Ooh.
I think so many forms of misery are from a lack of agency. The job you hate, the boss that treats you like shit and doesn't care about what you need. Like the root behind burnout is really just like your needs do not match. Your needs and your ability to meet them do not match the agency that is afforded to you in life as you try to survive.
And that's so interesting too, because if you look at the meta where a lot of businesses have gone, like you started to see just how talented so many people are when you give them the agency. That's literally Mindplex's entire business model. As we said, instead of just one network, it's everybody's going to be able to come to, and like that exploration, like when people are passionate about their product, that's why Fortnite has killed it. That's why Roblox has killed it. And I can't wait to see your show. And I cannot wait. That Roblox paid out 1.1 billion, right? 1.1 billion. And in 2018, I won't say who, but they were getting laughed out of the room by the competition who was number 1 at the time. Now they paid out 1.1 billion last year.
Dude, the entire games industry, PC, mobile, console, all combined, is like less than 200 billion. To put that into perspective, that's insane for Roblox. Yeah,
it's nuts.
But yeah, like ever think about why games in particular really draw in a crowd that just like is dissatisfied with life, is because games give you agency. They help you affect the world around you in ways that you cannot do in life.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it like that. I learn something new every day on this show.
Deep shit. Deep
day.
Cuts. Deep shit. On that note, though, I hate to interrupt the philosophical musings, but I have taken a lot of you guys' time. We're just about to hit the 3-hour mark. So on that note, it might have gone by fast. Hopefully not painfully slow for anyone listening. But on that note, thank you so much to Samito, Fareeha, and Flats for your time, your insights. Love talking to you guys as always. Please show these guys some love. Check out Samito. Let's hope we get that fucking business hookup with Blizzard. Fareeha, check out her awesome new merch. And Flats, let's just help him move into his apartment properly. Let's just hope no
Yeah,
no snipers.
Let's hope flats doesn't flood, dude.
No
more
snipers,
flooding.
no pipes bursting. Please
Yeah.
just let this man live in peace. But anything else you guys want to add before we let you get going?
I'm about to get some hibachi.
Ooh,
Awesome.
I
enjoy.
will.
Awesome.
gang.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Peace out.